Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the WOR YouTube channel. It's round 9 of this PC Tier 1 season, and the championship fight is really beginning to heat up. With just 20 points separating the top 4, the drivers are going to do battle at the Yas Marina circuit in Abu Dhabi. My name is Dan, and as always, I'm being joined by Luke Etheridge. Luke, how are you doing tonight?
I'm very well, thanks, Dan. Good evening to you. Good evening to everyone that is watching at home. Yeah, really looking forward to what is going to be a fantastic end to the season. It's so close, as you've said now, between the top 4. Still no one really seems to be able to take a dominant step in the championship. They've had a bit of a break week. They've had a bit of a time to prepare, and we're going to see who can end F1 22 on a high. I mean, we're still in a situation where any one of those top 4 drivers, if they win the final 3 races, they win the title. So it's great to be so close to the end of the season, and it's still being, so many drivers' hands and not having to rely on slip-ups from others.
Yep, absolutely. The championship is really coming to its boiling point, where all these drivers are in such good runs of form. Everyone is almost at their peaks at the minute. And of course, Abu Dhabi is all the circuit to do it at. Of course, typically on the Formula 1 calendar, it is right at the end of the season. And look, the situation was the same last season. Of course, Jarno Opmeer took the championship from Thomas Ronhaar and Rune Pedreño in that very intense race. This championship fight, of course, not going to go to an end here at Abu Dhabi, but Luke, it plays a vital part in how this championship runs out.
Yeah, I mean, it is still exceptionally close. After what happened last time out at Saudi Arabia, I mean, it was a couple of weeks ago. You might remember Jake Benham got a questionable 5-second penalty. He did get that removed, so got bumped up to 3rd place behind Nico Longe, who finished in 2nd, and then Danny Bavejde, who won his, who continued that streak of just winning every time he races in WOR. 2 for 2 now in the series, down there in 10th of the championship. Mathematically, anyone on that page is still in it, but yeah, realistically, it is Benham, Ronhaar, Longe, and Caraton. And Jake especially, he's in a good situation. If he wins here tonight, he's going to start building up a bit of a gap just at the crucial moment. But obviously, winning here tonight is easier said than done.
Yeah, Jake Benham is in a very good place at the minute. Of course, last time we were here, he was in a fantastic position. I believe, no, that was actually at Brazil, but he was in a race-winning position. And then, of course, he was taken out by Thomas Ronhaar, one of his main championship rivals in this hunt. Of course, the pair of them got a lot of history together in WOR, going all the way back to the Xbox platform. And I wouldn't be surprised, Luke, if things reach their climax this evening. Really excited to get this one underway. We've got a very good grid, actually. I think, in the past few weeks with drivers taking breaks and stuff, the grids haven't been as high caliber as they could have been. But tonight, Luke, we have a fantastic lineup.
Yeah, we do. We'll just quickly run through the grid on the screen as well. There has been a couple of issues just getting the lobby together. Unfortunately, Liam Parnell, our usual host, had a few internet issues, so it has just been a bit last minute. But you can see the grid there. Jake Benham and Dylan Warren in the Mercedes. It is going to be Ismail Fassi, and we're not quite sure who's going to be joining him in the Red Bull tonight, as Liam Parnell, as we said, has unfortunately had a few connectivity issues. Nico Longe and Chad Akinci in the Ferrari. Otis Lawrence, Daniel Shelson in the McLaren. In the Alpine, Luke Smith and Bencher Charbot Conye. Jack West, Istvan Pookie. Pookie still, got a slim chance of taking the championship in the Alpha Tauri. Max Wiesel and Duncan Hoffland in the Aston Martin. Fully sports lineup at Williams with Alvaro Caraton and Shinaka Clay. Danny Bavejde looking to make it 3 wins in WOR out of 3, alongside Ika Baena, Zander Van Dijken, alongside Thomas Ronhaar in the Haas. So yes, Dan, as you said, it is a quality grid. I think that obviously great week, other leagues, starting to die down, has maybe just given the opportunity for more drivers to think, you know what, let's just keep our eye in, let's just have a bit of fun towards the end of the season. And I think, like we saw with Bavejde a couple of weeks ago, he was under no pressure, so delivered an absolutely fantastic performance. Apart from the championship contenders, there's probably a lot of drivers on this grid in that situation. So with it being as close as we know it is, how many times have we seen the entire grid in Q1 separated by 2-3 tenths of a second? With it being that close, wouldn't be surprised if anyone takes the victory tonight.
Absolutely, and of course, this championship has been notorious for having multiple different winners over the course of a race season. I believe the only repeat victor that we've had so far this season is Nicolas Longe. He took victory in the first round at Brazil, and then of course he won 3 weeks ago in Bahrain. Will he make it 3 wins so far this season? We'll have to wait and see. He's only 10 points off in the championship in regards to Jake Benham, who's really just been consistent the entire season, Luke. I mean, he's taken 4 podiums and a win on his way to taking this championship lead. Jake Benham, he's in a fantastic position as we speak, and I'd really like to see him continue that run of form. But I think the man I'm most excited to see tonight is Danny Berejnay. Of course, 2 wins in WOR out of 2 races. Can they make it a third? We'll have to wait and see. It was a fantastic end to the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. And Luke, is there any chance we're going to get a finish as close as what we had there?
Probably not, if we're being honest. I mean, yes, the Abu Dhabi track, I'd say, and I think everyone would argue, is a lot improved over what it was originally. You've got the hairpin, obviously, that replaces the chicane, giving that overtaking opportunity for the first DRS straight, and then the massive change that they've made in the second sector, getting rid of what was 11, 12, and 13, that chicane area, into the long left-hander at turn number 9. It does generally make it better racing, but the final sector is very fiddly at Abu Dhabi. It's very street circuit-esque, I think you could say. I mean, countless times I've seen on this game drivers getting it wrong in that final sector. I know they all say cars are very understeering on this game, but you really do put a lot of load through the rear tyres through that final sector, so don't be surprised if you see the odd spin and the odd bit of front wing going missing in this qualifying session.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely Sector 3 is going to be the real test for those drivers. I mean, Sector 1 and 2, you're doing most of them flat out, but it does really get technical in that third sector, especially at the double left-hander when you go underneath the hotel section. Lots of understeer through there, and the walls right next to the circuit. If you run ever so slightly wide, you're going to be chipping off a bit of your front wing. And of course, Luke, that was where Nicholas Latifi, I believe, had his crash in 2021. And we all know what happened then. I wonder if that's going to happen tonight. Could this championship be decided by the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix? If something big happens to one of the championship contenders and all their rivals do well, that could be their season over.
Yeah, it could very well be. I mean, they're all in that situation now, I'd say. Jake, Nico, Thomas, and Alvaro. One retirement could well be game over in the championship for them, just because of how close things are, just because we've not seen anyone get a ton of run. Like you said, 7 different winners from the first 8 races, and it's only been the Frenchman, Longuet, and the Ferrari that's managed to take 2 victories. 4 podiums is the most anyone's got, and that is all 4 championship contenders. So, you've got a 50% chance of getting a podium if you're in that championship battle. You're not going to recover, I don't think, from a retirement. You mentioned that final sector being particularly tricky. I remember, way back in 2009 when this circuit was first announced, everyone went on about the pit exit. Everyone went on about that tunnel for the exit of the pit lane. We all expected that to be a problem. We all expected someone to get it wrong there. I've never seen it happen in league racing, but I have seen countless drivers get it wrong on the pit entry, especially if you've got some front wing damage. That pit entry can come pretty sharpish and can definitely surprise a few people.
Yeah, that's reminded me of it was an old video. I believe it was of Danny Moreno. He just completely understeers into the pit barrier and ends his race there. And I think Liam Parnell made a quite funny edit of it. I wonder if I'm going to find that one later. But yeah, certainly the pit entry caused a lot more problems than expected. Look, we're about ready to go around about now. We've got all 20 drivers in at the lobby. We've got Philip Presnader, former F1 esports driver, of course, taking up Liam Parnell's vacant seat. Got the full qualifying format, of course, the 18-minute Q1 session to decide the top 15. Could be a very exciting one here.
Yeah, it is. I mean, Abu Dhabi, that's got a few moments where you can invalidate a lap, so we could see a few people needing multiple laps. Out of the championship contenders, I'd say when he's kept it clean, Ronhar's been by far the strongest in qualifying, but we have seen on multiple occasions he's had to leave it until that final run, so we'll see whether that comes to cost him today. But yes, all the drivers getting ready. I mean, I'm interested to see how Philip Presnader does. He's admitted he's had no practice whatsoever, so it could be a very intriguing qualifying session for him.
Yeah, absolutely. He's going to want to hope to get out of that Q1 session. But Luke, as you mentioned earlier on, a lot of these guys not really feeling pressure at this point in the game cycle. Things are winding down. There's no more F1 esports to worry about, and F1 23 announcements beginning to come in, a lot of leaks here and there. But certainly, these guys not going to be feeling all too much pressure. Maybe some drivers might take it a little bit easy in this first session. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a driver who's not in the championship fight, but has the pace to be right at the front of the order, maybe do our last or first challenge.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a few drivers try that, especially those that are, I'm going to say those that are out of the championship battle, but I'm sure we've seen Nico and Thomas try it a couple of times. But yeah, maybe those who do think, you know what, I've not had too much practice, might just go for that last to first challenge, might even end up leaving the session, putting a bit of race practice in, then coming back in for Q3, of course. Now, we have got the familiar side of drivers starting to exit the pit lane on a set of the intermediate tyres. It is going to be one of the Red Bulls. I think that's going to be one of the first cars heading out. Unsurprisingly, that is going to be Presnader, given the fact that he wasn't able to get too much practice in. But I believe there is a car that has come out even earlier than him, and that's going to be a Luke Smith, a man who got a podium at this circuit last year. Someone else we could put in that bracket of has really got nothing to lose, so could be a bit of a dark horse for tonight.
Yep, absolutely. And of course, you can see him heading through this hairpin. But we're not going to see too many overtakes through there, given that it's right before the kilometre-long straight. However, we're going to see a lot of varying lines trying to get the better exit than their rivals. And it certainly is going to make for some interesting battles down this straight in towards turn number 6, where I think, Luke, we're going to see the brunt of the overtakes this evening. Of course, that feeds into the chicane, which then leads on to this next straight, headed down in towards turn number 9. There's plenty of opportunities for battling around this circuit in this first and second sector. These guys have really got to get their elbows out through here, because once you get into this final part of the track, sector 3, it becomes a lot more difficult to overtake, as Luke Smith, he's on his outlap at the minute, a little bit skittish on his intermediate tyres. We'll see what he can do for his banker as he heads underneath the hotel section. Luke, we were talking about this earlier. Look at how close these barriers are to the track. I mean, especially off the exit of turn number 13, slightly bit of understeer and your race could be done.
Yeah, definitely, especially once the tyres are starting to get worn, especially if you're battling with other drivers. We talked about the changes to the track already. What I found about turn number 9, that changing that from the very fiddly chicane that it was, you see cars going side by side through 10 and 11 more, and sometimes even on the run into turn number 12. So that's going to be something to watch out for, because that is a very tricky corner, a very tricky part of the track to come side by side with someone else, especially if you've got traffic on a, in qualifying, especially you might get some traffic there, and also in the race when people are trying different things on the strategies. We've not had the usual flurry of cars exiting the pit lane at the moment, heading out there on the set of the intermediates. I mean, I think in real life we have seen, I know Pirelli have certainly done wet tyre testing at Abu Dhabi, but I think in real life there has been a couple of practice sessions or even, post-season tests where they've had to use the intermediate tyres because there is a bit of rain in the air at Abu Dhabi. Don't know whether we'll get any today, but given the way the season's gone, it wouldn't be too surprising. So yeah, drivers just trying to make sure that their setup's okay, make sure that everything's working fine, and making sure they're not wasting a set of the soft tyres that they might need if they get through to Q2 and Q3, of course.
Yeah, I mean, rain in Abu Dhabi certainly wouldn't be on my bingo card, but as you said, Luke, given the way that this season has gone, won't be all too surprising. However, only a few drivers out on circuit at the minute. Luke Smith is just coming through the final sector now. We'll see what lap time he's able to do. He's looked relatively calm on this lap. He's not made any big mistakes. He comes back into the pit lane. We were talking about this earlier. That does actually, on the left-hand side, that wall does hit you a bit like a brick wall. It kind of comes out of nowhere. It's a little bit blind through there. But, yeah, hopefully no one's going to be making any contact with that. As I'm seeing, got a car actually exiting the pit lane on a set of soft compound tyres as Otis Lawrence comes across the line, 1 minute 27.826. Take that with a pinch of salt. Of course, that is on the intermediate tyres. But look, we've got Philip Presnader coming out onto the circuit. He's exiting the pit lane now. He's on a set of the softs.
Yeah, I think clearly just trying to get a bit of a run in here. He's not too bothered about where he qualifies, just trying to get a bit of a feel for the circuit. I mean, it's not like they lose the pace. It's not like it takes them a long time to get back up to pace. It's getting that consistency. They'll be able to go fast pretty much straight away. It's being able to do it lap after lap after lap. So maybe, I mean, I don't know what these drivers are doing. They've been doing a lot more successfully than I have, of course. Wouldn't be too surprising to me, though, if he's put a bit of fuel in this. Maybe does 2 or 3 laps and then goes for one final proper run towards the end of the session, just to get a bit more of a feel for the car, because we know what it's like on this game. These soft tyres are effectively a qualifying-only tyre. We will not be seeing these in the race at all. But I can't remember another session, barring where we've had rain coming partway through the session, where someone's gone out on a set of soft tyres this early.
Yeah, no, I mean, 12 minutes to go. Actually, just under 13 minutes left to go in this session. It's typically around about the 10-minute mark that we see drivers exiting the pit lane on a set of the soft compound tyres to get their laps in. But maybe Philip Presnader doesn't want to deal with the pressure of having other cars on out laps or on push laps themselves. So he's just come out a little bit earlier than everyone else. He's got Otis Lawrence just ahead of him on a circuit, but I believe the McLaren peeled off into the pit lane. So out the final corner, we'll see what Philip Presnader is able to do as he goes on his lap now in towards the first 2 corners. Quick through here, keeping it in 5th and using all the curbs as possible on exit, flat out through turn number 2 and then through turn number 3 as well, completely flat through this part of the circuit, formerly a chicane, turn number 5, but heavy braking in towards turn number 7. Actually, no, this is turn number 5. I was looking at one of the old track maps by mistake on my left-hand side, but opening up the DRS, Philip Prejeda, not looking too quick on this lap. He made a mistake in the first corner. Other than that, nothing has really blown me away. In towards turn number 6, one of the heaviest braking zones along the circuit. Inside front left lockup for Prejeda. That's a little bit scrappy. Rides the curve. That could scrap up a little bit of time. Philip Prejeda in this second sector as Jack West leaving the session. That's not ideal for the AlphaTauri competitor. 52.906 in that second sector, but Luke is not looking like a world beater.
No, not at the moment. I think, again, just trying to get a little bit of consistency in as he makes his way through 10-11. Heavy braking for turn number 12. Very easy to lock up a wheel through there. In towards 13 and 14. That wall ever inviting on the right-hand side. Turn number 15. Got a full commitment through there. In towards 16. Prejeda a bit too much commitment. Ran wide. Invalidated his lap time. Yeah, even with those mistakes. 123.584. As he heads towards the line. We'll see whether he tries to push hard on this lap. Again, just a bit too quick, I think, through turn number 15. Didn't get the line right, and then obviously was on the curb. He'd already invalidated the lap, but was on the curb, ran wide through turn number 16. So we'll see if Prejeda continues pushing or just brings it back into the pit lane, but he's got the entire track to himself at the moment with 10 minutes, 25 seconds remaining, and thankfully, we have got Jack West back into the session, so we should have full complement of 20 drivers for qualifying. It looks like everyone is going to at least attempt a qualifying lap.
That's a good start at the very least. We've got only one lap on the board as we speak, but as we tick ever so closer to the 10-minute mark, this is when we start to see drivers exiting the pit lane. I'm going to look all the way down the pit lane to see which engineers exit the garage first. That's when they're just checking to see if the pit lane is clear in order to send their drivers out. That'll indicate that they are exiting the boxes. Still a little bit of a ghost town at the moment. Philip Prejeda on the back foot, given that he's wasted that set of the tyres and he couldn't actually go for another run because he's got this lap and next lap invalidation. So I'm seeing some activity down at the Alpine garage. One of them exiting the pit lane. Now, is that Jabo Konyi or is that Luke Smith? It is bench Jabo Konyi, who was the first one, or the second one actually, out on a set of the soft compound tyres. And by the looks of it, Luke, he's come out a bit earlier than everyone else.
Yes, yeah, like you said, he's come out quite early on, so trying to steal a bit of a march for everyone else. Now we're seeing one of the Ferraris starting to make their way down the pit lane. That is going to be Nico Longe on his way out, Chanakinchi as well. We're at that halfway point in this qualifying session now. Everyone's going to start going for it. Everyone's going to try and make sure that they do get some clear air. We've already said that final sector can resemble a bit of a car park towards the end of the lap. One of the Hassers making their way out of the pit lane as well. That is Xander Van Dyken, who we've had a prediction in the chat. Former Challengers driver George Nader, who was part of the R8G squad for a bit, that Xander might get a podium. So we'll have to wait and see whether he can live up to that expectation. It's a lot more familiar scene now. It is getting a lot busier out there on the circuit. The majority of the cars now decided to dive out of the pits.
Yep, all on the soft compound of tile. We've only seen a few runners come out on the intermediates. That's only Otis Lawrence with a lap time thus far. He has exited the pit lane and he is on his out lap as we speak. Still a few cars in the pit lane. I think most notably, you have to say it's Jake Benham still in the box. He's giving it a little bit of time. He's just come out of his garage now and he's now feeding himself out of that pit lane exit and on to the circuit as Jabo Konyi is about to begin his lap. We'll see what he can do. And I think he's just about avoided all the traffic. He'll have an Alfa Romeo of Danny Berezne just ahead of him on circuit, but there's a lot of space for Berezne to get out of the way of his fellow countryman headed down in towards turn number 5. So we'll see what Jabo Konyi can do. A lot more committed than what we've seen from Philip Prejeda thus far, headed now down in towards the turn number 5 hairpin. You see it's a bit of a late apex through here and keeping it through 4th. It's very rare that we see drivers go beneath that 4th gear, short shifting his way down onto this straight and opening up the DRS. We'll see what we can do as he reaches speeds of excess over 205 miles per hour at the braking zone. Heavy braking in towards turn number 6, keeping it in third, then short shifting into fourth. Get the power down as early as possible, and once again open up that DRS headed down and towards turn number 9. But so far, so good, Luke.
Yeah, pretty decent lap. You can see there, Perezde getting well out of the way. Turn number 10, the long banked left-hander. You don't really want to take too much of an apex at the early part of this corner. Nice and calm. Bouchabo Conye through there, flat out through 10, flat out through 11, braking just as you try and turn there very easily to lock up a wheel and get it wrong through this part of the circuit. Underneath the hotel, a little bit of a correction there from Chabo Conye. Ended up short shifting just to kill the wheel spin as well. That might just cost him ever so slightly when it comes towards the end of the lap, but full commitment through the final double right-hander towards the line for Chabo Conye. 22.763, the first proper competitive lap time of this session. We'll see what everyone else can do with that. I'm particularly interested to see what our first of our championship contenders we're going to see heading towards the finish line can do. Nico Longue's been pretty good at getting out of Q1 in one go. He goes fastest by nearly a quarter of a second.
I think he'll be very happy with that lap as Xander Van Dijken comes across the line. And he goes 2/10 slower than him, as now we've got a whole flurry of cars in that final sector. We'll see who comes across the line. Next is going to be one of the Aston Martins. I believe that is Max Wiesel coming to the line. He goes in P3 as it's a Ferrari 1-2 for the time being. Chanakinchi, we've not seen too much of him this season. Slots in behind his teammates. We've got Otis Lawrence out of the final corner. Now he splits the two Ferraris. He's ahead of Chanakinchi by 0.004 of a second. Very nice time indeed for the young Welshman. And now we'll see who comes across the line next. Is Alvaro Carreton still in this championship hunt. He's a little bit away off the championship fight for the time being. But at 22.6, he's just jumped by his fellow countrymen. And then there goes Thomas Ronhaar to the top of the order. He's ahead of Nicholas Longue. Jake Benham can only find himself in P7, and as all of these laps coming out, it seems like we've got a few drivers in that drop zone. Jack West and Dylan Warren and Philip Presnader not with good times to their names. Danny Beresnay, Luke, will be the next one up to cross the line. However, he's unfortunately invalidated his run. He'll come back into the pit lane, abandoning on that lap. On the back foot is the Hungarian. He's got Daniel Shelson behind him on circuit through the final corner. He'll be the last one to set a lap time in this first run of qualifying laps. P14, not the best place for him to be so far. Definitely in a danger of being eliminated, but just under 5 minutes left to go. Thomas Ronhaar quickest of them all so far. Nicholas Longue in P2, Otis Lawrence in third.
Yeah, Otis in third. It looked like Ronhaar had a bit more time in the bag in that lap. Didn't look like the cleanest of exits through the final corner. Obviously, there's not a long time from the final corner until you get to the start-finish line, so probably won't have cost him too much time, but feel like a 22.4 definitely was a possibility for him. Him and Longue are going to be feeling very safe indeed. It wouldn't surprise me if Lawrence, Akinci, Fassi and Cavaton are also feeling safe, but Jake Benham, 122.724. Daniel Shelson, 600th slower, 7 places further back. That is how close it is at the moment, so surely everyone from Benham down has got to head out there on the track again, especially when you consider that Danny Perezde yet to set a time and Dylan Warren yet to set a competitive time. But as I say that, Warren comes across the line into 16th. So he's in the drop zone at the moment alongside Pookie, West, Presneda and Perezde. Definitely surprising given recent form to see Istvan Pookie down there.
Yeah, absolutely. Istvan Pookie is definitely a name we'd expect to see inside that top 10 and possibly safe in towards the next qualifying session. Maybe Abu Dhabi isn't one of his favourite circuits, but that being said, Luke, he's only 3.5 tenths off the back of Thomas Ronhaar thus far, so still got plenty of time. He's got 3.5 minutes left to go in this session. I believe Istvan Pookie will be able to get out of this Q1 session. Current gap between 1st and 16th is 3/10 of a second, and there's 38 thousandths weaved into there as well, as we've got more drivers. They're all back into the pit lane, but I've already seen Ben Jabraconi come back in, back out onto the circuit. He's in P11. He doesn't feel safe, but he's 2.5 tenths off of Thomas Ronhaar. That's a quarter of a second, and by the looks of his laps, there's definitely a little bit more time in there. He drove cleanly on his run, but he didn't go full commitment, I would say. So definitely Ben Jabraconi is a name we do have to look out for, and he's had a few surprise appearances in Q3 and in the upper reaches of Q2 so far this season. So I think Ben Jabraconi's got a good chance of getting out of Q1 here.
Yeah, I mean, all the races he's done so far this season, he's sort of, apart from last time out in Saudi Arabia, where, you know, it's a bit of a unique circuit, he's been there or thereabouts. 11th in France, 5th place at Bahrain. Very good result for him there as Cavaton retires from the session. A top 6 are proving that they are feeling pretty safe. It wasn't the cleanest lap from Chabo Konyi. He only needs to find 400ths of a second, and he gets himself ahead of Jake Benham. He finds a 10th of a second. He puts himself ahead of Fassi and Caraton, and I think that would be his target, because that should definitely be a good enough time to make yourself safe. Let us know in the chat, what time do you think is going to be the cutoff area at the moment? Jake Benham's 1:22.724, I think, might be good enough to get you through, but if I was him, and as I can see these dots heading out of the track, I'd definitely want to be getting out there again. I'd be surprised if what the times we've seen from Wiesel, Van Dijken, Clay, and those further back do end up being good enough, as we're now starting to see the yellow flags. The other cars start backing up in that final sector.
Yep, don't worry about those yellow flags. No one's had an incident through there as Ben Jabakoni, he gets his lap underway. We'll see what he can do, as with 1.5 minutes left to go in this session. Max Wiesel hasn't come out onto the circuit. He feels safe with that 1:22.751. Very ambitious, I'd say. Maybe a little bit arrogant from the German, but we'll see if that is enough to get him into the next session. It's definitely going to be a bit dangerous for him, given that so many drivers are so close to him in times. His closest competitor is Xander Van Dijken, who has come out onto the circuit, and to jump him, he only needs to find 7,000ths of an improvement, which is nothing. Especially it's just nothing. It's quicker than the blink of an eye as Zabakoni comes through the second sector split. He's purple through there, but he is ever so slightly down on his previous lap. So Luke, I think all of his improvement comes in this final sector, as he's got a Mercedes just in front of him. Hopefully that's not going to be too much of an issue. They get out of the way nicely for Jabakoni, but now through the final sector, we'll see what he can do, as he's got to be very careful not to run that little bit too wide and validate your lap through here. But now through the final corner and off the exit, we'll see what Jabakoni can do as he comes across the line. He does improve. He goes into the 1:22.6 as he jumps Jake Benham, and he's in P7.
Yeah, and it looks like Jake Benham's going to be probably the last person to set a lap in this qualifying session, and it wouldn't surprise me if he needs a faster lap to get out. That's why I'm surprised Max Wiesel retired from the session. He's not even a 10th faster than Istvan Pukki, down in 17th at the moment, as that is Jack West who retires from the session. Luke Smith not able to improve on his lap time. Shanaka Clay gets himself up into 7th. All the times now starting to come through thick and fast. Checkered flag is out. No improvement whatsoever for Presneder. What's Xander Van Dijken going to do? Can he get further up the order? Moves himself in towards 8th place. Ika Baena is going to be the next man to come across the line. He is a 10th of a second up. If I was Max Wiesel, I'd be regretting that decision round about now.
Absolutely, it seems like his hubris is going to be his downfall. Is now out of the final corner. We'll see what Ika Baena can do. Is he going to get himself into that top 10? And indeed, he gets himself into the top 3. A 1:22.5 from him. We've got Duncan Hoffland coming up towards the line next, and he's able to jump Ika Baena by 4,000ths of a second. Max Wiesel continually dropping down the order. Luke Smith invalid and out of this session as he's eliminated by Istvan Pukki. Dylan Warren comes across the line for P6. Pukki out of this session. Jake Benham in the final sector now. We'll see what he can do, as I think Max Wiesel's just about survived through his. Jake Benham slides out of the final corner, still improves by a massive margin, gets himself into P3. Luke Smith, with his invalidation, puts him out of this session. And Luke, by 3,000ths of a second, Max Wiesel has just about survived in this one.
Never in doubt, was it? He was sweating a bit, I think, towards the end of that session. Yeah, just making it through. Istvan Pukki missing out by 3,000ths of a second. I mean, Luke Smith, we didn't see an improvement from Daniel Schelsen. Didn't see improvements, West or Presneder. Any one of those improved. Imagine Max Wiesel would be heading out of the session. So yeah, frustration there you can see for Luke Smith. He makes his way into the pit lane. The Alpine squad only just getting one of their cars through with Bencher Chabo Konye. And again, an extremely close session. Thomas Ronhar, fastest of everyone on a 1:22.507. Istvan Pukki within a quarter of a second. That's not enough to see the Hungarian through to Q2.
Yep, that is a big loss to see Istvan Pukki eliminated this early. The same goes for Luke Smith. Daniel Schelsen, unfortunate to not get himself into the next session. I saw Jack West actually crashed, I think, on his outlap. Maybe it was a push lap, but he did crash in the third sector. It was out of turn number 9 and 10. And that maybe if he improved on that lap, he'd have seen himself out of the drop zone. But that brings us to the end of Q1. Thomas Ronhart leading the way, and he's only done that. with one set of tyres, so it's going to be a big advantage headed into the next session. He's just a little bit ahead. He's 16 thousandths ahead of Nicholas Longay at the end of that session, and Jake Benham with a big improvement. But we saw a big snap of oversteer off the exit of the final corner. He sets himself in at P3, bottom 5 being Isfan Pookie, Luke Smith, Daniel Shelson, Jack West, and Philip Presnader. And Luke, that brings us to the end of what was a very close Q1 session. Yeah,
exceptionally close indeed. Again, they're so good at the moment. Looking Bonhar and Longay, both of those setting fast enough times to be 1-2, despite only doing it on one set of tyres. Jake Benham, it's become a familiar theme that he's needed a second set of tyres, but he always seems to do it. And in the end, his first lap would have been good enough, but I can see why he went out again. Definitely wouldn't have felt too comfortable, and I think as a championship leader at the moment, probably can't afford to take that risk of sitting back and then qualifying outside of the top 15. We said how costly things could be, but we are now heading our way in towards the Q2 session. So the top 15 drivers have made it through to this, and we will see, of course, 5 more get eliminated. And as we already see cars getting ready to come out of the pit lane, a reminder that this will almost certainly be a scrubbed set of tyres.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a very common theme. It's pretty much routine for these guys in qualifying. They don't come out until 10 minutes to go left in Q1. Then in Q2, they come out instantly on a scrub set of the tyres. And looking at that pit exit there, I mean, it looks like a Tesco car park on a Saturday morning. That is absolutely incredible. See all those guys. And you touched upon this earlier, Luke, how everyone thought that was going to be such an issue, that pit exit. Everyone files through very cleanly indeed. We've got almost all 15 drivers out on circuit. It's only Thomas Ronhar and Zabra Konyi yet to exit their pit garage. They're all out on a track, and we're looking at some battles headed down in towards as, oh dear, that'll get removed. I think there's a, oh no, wait, that's actually a collision penalty. Something's happened between Otis Lawrence and Max Wiesel, and yeah, I saw them pretty much bump drafting down at the straight there, but yeah, Max Wiesel, if he wants that one removed, they'll have to provide a clip of him not doing anything wrong.
Yeah, just as you said, they were battling down the straight. About half a second later, we get a collision penalty coming up. It's qualifying, lads. Keep it calm, keep it nice, and yeah, he will have to provide evidence, because we saw 2 weeks ago in Saudi Arabia, Matthias Van Erven got a penalty after, I think he crashed into the wreckage of Jack West's car, but didn't have any footage of it. Jack didn't have any footage. And there we go. The penalty did not get removed, and it was fair to say the Haas Esports driver was less than pleased with that decision. So we'll see whether Max has got that recorded. If he has, we will be restarting, and we will be able to, obviously, get that penalty removed, as Alvaro Cavaton wipes out one of the brake marker boards on the way towards turn number 1, which will not make him the most popular person on the grid.
Yeah, naughty from Alvaro Cavaton. He's the first one out in Q2, and I think, Luke, it is vital for him to have a good race this evening. He's 20 points off the top of the championship hunt. It is beginning to slip from him, and I think those 2 DNFs that he's had so far this season in Belgium and Portugal, they're going to hurt him if he doesn't have a good run today. And this, if he doesn't have a good race, could be eliminated from a championship contention, or certainly out of the picture. He can still mathematically be within a shot, but it'll be very difficult when the championship rivals are Jake Benham, Thomas Ronhart, and Nicholas Longay. So he needs to pull his finger out this evening, and he's done that by coming out early in Q2. A 52.771 is his Sector 2 split time, and I think that confirms that he and everyone else would be on a scrub set of the tyres. So don't take these laps as their true pace, as Alvaro Caraton now through the final sector. The tyre's definitely going to be taking a beating through here. You're off camber for a lot of the corners, and it's very tricky to get it absolutely right. Flat out through turn number 14, I believe that one is, and then through 15 off the exit of the final corner. 23.1 banker time for Caraton. We'll see a lot quicker times, as now everyone is going to come across the line to finish up their runs, as Danny Berejnet is the quickest so far, but these laps really don't matter for the time being. And Luke, it is key to mention, we say it every week, but these slower banker times do give that little psychological boost to these drivers with the green deltas once they're on their actual push laps.
Yeah, it means you don't have to, go absolutely crazy to go on a push lap and to see a negative delta, I suppose, of course, because you are going faster, but it does give you that positive feeling that you are doing a good job. And also, it's just a bit nice to have one over everyone else and see that you are going quicker than all of the others. And at the moment, it's Berejnet who's sort of won that mini battle. 123.071 from him. Jake Benham doing a bit better at the moment. Caraton further up there. Longe perhaps not having the lap that he would have wanted. But he's not going to be too bothered. We'll be seeing all these drivers file into the pit lane soon, of course, before we get ready for the proper final part of Q2 to start. Predictions possibly in the chat for what we think the cutoff time is going to be last time. Mid 122.7 did it last time around. I think you're going to need at least a 122.6, possibly even a 22.5, given the track evolution, if you want to get yourself through into the top 10.
Yeah, absolutely. It is definitely going to be it's going to be difficult to get into the top 10 with this caliber of grid. And one man who's certainly not going to be taking too many risks in this session is Max Wiesel. And Luke, I've just been thinking, imagine if he's fighting for the win at some point in this race, or he's fighting for pole position, and if someone behind him weren't to have an incident or weren't to have their invalidation, he could have been eliminated a lot earlier, and his story could have been a lot different. I think he's used up all of his luck, and Max Wiesel is not going to be taking any risks in this qualifying. And currently in P9, it's not the best banker in the world, but it doesn't matter really for the time being. He certainly is going to want to go for at least 2 runs, I'd say, in this session, though.
Yeah, I think so. We're getting a question in the chat from Adam. Is there going to be a restart? I haven't seen Max say anything about his penalty yet, but he has been driving, so just leave it a few minutes. We may get that out there. There is something interesting, though. It seems like something could have happened in Q1 between Ron Haar and Dylan Warren. So that won't affect anything for this race. But if that turns out to be blocking from Ron Haar, even though Warren did make it through, if it is severe enough, that could be a qualifying ban for the next race. So possibly something that we are going to keep an eye on. It is very quiet out there on the circuit at the moment. 9 minutes to go in Q2. Let's have a quick look at our sponsors, Williams Esports.
Welcome back trackside here at the Yas Marina circuit. We finally got some action here in Q2. Ben Chabot-Cognier for the first out on a fresh set of the soft compound of tyre. We'll see what his first effort is in this qualifying. He didn't come out on the scrub set of tyres. We'll see what he can do. Is now through the final sector. He's got Otis Lawrence. He's got Alvaro Caraton, I believe that is, just behind him on a track. But Luke, he's got plenty of clear air. Doesn't seem like he's going to be running into any traffic, and we'll see what Ben Chabot-Cognier could do. He really only just about survived into Q2. We'll see what he can do as he fights for Q3.
I mean, that's all it's about in Q1 and Q2. It is just about surviving. There's no point setting ridiculously fast lap times and burning your tyres up too much. 15th and 10th will do. It's all about that Q3 session, of course, but it's always nice just to have that little psychological boost to get yourself further up the order as the final car there. I believe that was Danny Bavejde, the last car, making his way out onto the circuit. Ben Chabot-Cognier, nice and clean through the first sector. We see this a lot. The same drivers like to be out there on the circuit early on. I know in previous seasons when they were at the Alfa Romeo squad, it was always Nicolas Longe and Tomek Peradžić like to be the first ones out there. And even if they weren't there, Carter Lundy and Drake Dempsey, some of the familiar North American names that we don't see as much of now. They always enjoyed being first out onto the circuit as well. But it is Chabot-Cognier. 7 minutes remaining in this session. Bavejde, Benham, Caraton, Akinci and Baena the fastest at the moment. 52.4 for the Hungarian as he makes his way in towards that final sector. Now we'll see what he can do towards the end of this lap. Shouldn't have any trouble with traffic, of course. But even if they don't block you in terms of dirty air, just that visual distraction of having a car in front can just be enough to put you off.
Absolutely. I don't think Danny Bavejde is going to be any issue, though, for Chabot-Cognier. Just riding on board with the Alpine pretty much through every apex. Bavejde is out of sight, and it's come across the line at 1 minute 22.570. It's a decent first effort from Ben Chabot-Cognier. We'll probably see him towards the lower end of the top 10 once all the laps are over and done with. But I think he'll want to come out again with that lap. We've got Otis Lawrence now through the final sector. He's about a tenth quicker than Chabot-Cognier in sector 2. And there it is. He is now the top of the leaderboard. 1 minute 22.534. Blown out of the water by Alvaro Caraton. 1 minute 22.393. And then Ismail Fassi goes exactly 100th clear of him. Very nice indeed. We've got Thomas Ronhart in the final sector. His teammate Xander Van Dyken has just come across the line with a solid effort, a 1:22.527. Here comes Ronhart to the line, topping Q1, currently topping Q2 with a 1:22.323. For the time being, Nicholas Longa's just come across the line. 1:22.4 from him. Shanaka Clay in the drop zone at the moment. Gets himself out of the bottom 5, but only into P9. The two Mercedes up next of Dylan Warren and Jake Benham. Jake Benham comes across the line first, and it's 5th place for him for the time being. Dylan Warren coming back into the pit lane. Last one up to come across the line will be Danny Berejnay in the bottom 5 for the time being, but of course, that was only his banker time, and he is improving at this point in time. Of course, Sector 3 is where all these guys are going to find the most improvement. Has now come across the line. Only P10 for Danny Berejnay. He does the exact same lap time of Ben Sabrakonyi. Put Shanaka Clay in that drop zone. But yeah, 1:22.570. Not a safe time at all.
No, and didn't find anywhere near the improvements in the first 2 sectors that we saw from the likes of Lawrence and other drivers. Yes, it depends how much quicker they went on this lap than they did on their scrub tyre lap earlier on, but I think Berejnay would have expected a lot more from that. We're not surprised to see Thomas Ronhart up there towards the end. We're not surprised to see 4 of our championship contenders in the top 5. And I think given the fact that he won this race in season 13, probably not too surprised to see Ismail Fassi up there either on a 1:22.3. 3 drivers on that 1:22.3 we definitely won't be seeing again in this session. Maybe even, I think Longay certainly won't come out again. Jake might think about it. I think everyone on a 1:22.5 and further back will have to head out in this session later on. There's definitely more time to come from Berejnay, I think. Clay as well. Hoffland and Viso qualifying not their strong point, but Akinci and Warren, they've been wanting to make some big improvements as well. We'll see how brave people are feeling in the final 4 minutes of this session. But, I mean, again, Ronhart and Longay looking like they're on it from the word go. And I think Jake, Alvaro and Ismail, they'll be very happy with their times as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say the top 5 are going to be safe through here, but of course, saw a similar situation with Jake Benham in Q1, where he's got plenty of drivers behind him within touching distance. You know, within I think Ikabaena is about 29 thousandths off the back of Jake Benham. That's a tiny improvement that he needs to make. He just needs to be slightly quicker through 1 or 2 corners, and then he'll be ahead of Jake Benham. So it might be in the Mercedes driver's best interest to come back out onto the circuit on another set of the soft compound of tyre, potentially go again in this Q2 session with just over 3 minutes left to go. Sabrakonyi, we've seen him come out first pretty much at every point in qualifying so far. He's going to continue that trend, coming out once again on a fresh set of soft compound of tyre for his second run. He is safe for the time being, but with Akinci and Warren on slow laps at the moment, they've not set a representative lap time. He could be in that drop zone in a matter of moments, so he does need this improvement. He's on his outlap now. He's got Nicholas Longay a long way back from him, and I think now with 2 minutes and 40 seconds left to go, we're going to see plenty of drivers coming out onto the track.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm surprised to see Longay out there again, but he did get through Q1 on only 1 set of tyres. So even if he burns up 2 in this session, he's going to have 2 sets, of course, for the final part of qualifying. So going for the better safe than sorry approach at the moment, and can't really blame him for that one. Possibly if he sees Benham and a couple of others behind him retire from the session, he might think about doing so as well. But it looks like both of the Mercedes are making their way out onto the circuit. In fact, everyone is making their way out onto the circuit, apart from Thomas Ronhart on that 1:22.323. So no one, apart from the man at the top of the order, no one feeling massively confident that they are going to make it through to the final part of this qualifying session. There's a lot of drivers I think have got potential big improvements. Obviously, you know, those in the bottom 5, we've mentioned Danny Berejnay as well. But Otis Lawrence, he's only safe by 800ths of a second at the moment. What can the young McLaren star do, of course? So close to getting his first PC top tier victory here in WOR before a penalty at the French Grand Prix. Another driver to watch tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Otis Lawrence towards the lower end of the top 10 as Ben Sabrakonyi's got his lap underway, but it is completely down the bin. And I think Sabrakonyi is definitely going to be in a spot of danger towards the end of this session. He has unfortunately made a big mistake out of turn number 1. And he might have enough time to go for another lap here, but his tyres will have a little bit of wear to them. He'll certainly be on the back foot. As Nicholas Longay, I believe, he has just begun his lap. He is the first one to begin it here. And we'll see what his improvement is. Almost a 10th of a second for the Frenchman. Decent so far. 1 minute 22.323 is the time to beat. Of course, Thomas Ronhaar deciding not to come out onto the circuit. It's definitely risky from him, but I don't see 11 drivers improving and going ahead of Thomas Ronhaar to put him in that drop zone. So I say he is definitely safe in this session as Nicolas Longuet continues on his lap out of turn number 7, 6, 7, and 8. He comes running up towards the turn number 9 and 10. It's the double left-hander through here. It's in one fell swoop of the wheel. He's improving by almost a 10th and a half. So many improvements throughout every sector so far for Nicolas Longuet. Going to set him up very nicely towards the end of this Q2 session. Through now the third sector, it does get very technical for these drivers, especially through turns number 12 and 13. The double left-hander with the walls are very close to the circuit. A slight bit of understeer could knock off your front wing clean. Flat out through turn number 14 and then braking in towards the final corner. The clock has struck 0. No new laps can be begun as now to come across the line. Nicolas Longuet, 1 minute 22.256. He's on top for the time being.
Yeah, that lap looked fantastic all the way through. Not surprising to see 22-2 in Q2. Shanaka Clay towards the line. Finds a big improvement in the final sector to get himself up towards 6th place. Quickly taken off him by Xander Van Dijken. Danny Beresde, winner last time out. He's not made it through this time around. Shanakinchi gets himself into 4th place. Dylan Warren up to 6th. I'm starting to see why Benham, Caraton and some of the others came out into qualifying again because they're not finding it as comfortable as they would have liked. Jake Benham through the final corners as Otis Lawrence chucks himself up into 2nd. Benham, the championship leader, puts it into 5th place. He will be safe in that one. Duncan Hoffland. Look at 3 drivers on an identical lap time. Shabo Konye, Beresde and Duncan Hoffland all on a 22.570. All of them, as it stands, going out in Q2 unless Shabo Konye can pull off something fantastic in this final sector. 47 thousandths of a second down. The Hungarian through the final couple of corners. Can he find an improvement? Can he get his Alpine into the top 10? Just wait and see, but I don't think he did in the end. Stayed in 13th.
Unfortunate there from Ben Shabo Konye, but 3 lap times completely identical. I mean, we don't see that all too often here in league racing, and that is incredible to see. 1 minute 22.570, very popular lap time between all these drivers, but Nicolas Longuet, he much prefers the 1 minute 22.256. He tops Q1 ahead of Otis Lawrence. Thomas Ronhaar, we only saw 1 lap from him. He stays in P3 by the end of it though, and then Alvaro Caraton ahead of Jake Benham, who is 1,000th ahead of Ismail Fassi in P6. Chanakinchi, Ikabaina, Dylan Warren and Xander Van Dijken all find themselves on a solid lap time, putting themselves into Q3. 2 big names, I'd say, Luke, missing from the final parts of qualifying. Shanaka Clay, Danny Berejne missing out alongside Max Wiesel, Xaber Konye and Duncan Hoffland. Certainly going to make for a mix-up grid.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you look how close things were. 22.511 was good enough to get you through the Q3. 22.570 puts you right down towards the bottom of the order. We say this so many times. It is exceptionally close, and it has proved to be the way. Once again. So into Q3 now. Final 12 minutes of qualifying. Bonar's looked very good so far. We'll wait and see if he looks as good in this part of qualifying, of course.
Yeah, of course. In Q3, Thomas Ronhaar, he does have a habit of messing up his first 2 runs, and then all of a sudden, in the final attempt, when the pressure really is at its highest, he delivers. And of course, we know, Luke, that diamonds are formed under pressure. Thomas Ronhaar, he is a prime example of that, and he's been able to get into Q3 with only 2 added up proper lap times. Of course, he did 1 run in Q1, did 1 run in Q2, and he's found himself in Q3 with a plethora of fresh tyres. Certainly, he's got a big advantage heading into this session. 12 minutes only is this Q3 qualifying, where the top 10 fighting it out for P1 overall. Early predictions, Luke. Who are we going for?
I am going to go for the least boring, well, the most boring option, I should say. I think Thomas Ronhaar's going to take pole position. I'm going to go for Longuet in 2nd, and I'm actually going to go for Ismail Fassi to round out the top 3. I think Caraton and Benham might have some work to do in this race. I mean, they're all going to have some work to do to get out onto track sooner rather than later. 1.5 minutes into Q3, no one has decided to make their way out of the pit lane. I remember, I'm old enough to remember the original Q3 days, 06, 07, which lasted 20 minutes long, And then they had a fuel burning phase where everyone just went out onto the circuit and drove around very slowly. That wasn't the most interesting thing to watch, but at least there were cars on track, and at least we're getting some cars on track now. The Dutchman, young Xander Van Dijken, former PlayStation champion here at World Online Racing. He's the first driver to make his way out onto the circuit. I suspect, though, on a set of the scrub tyres, of course, given the fact that he needed a couple of attempts at Q1 and Q2.
Don't look too shiny, those soft tyres for Xander Van Dijken, and maybe just wants to get a feel once again of the circuit, really get his bearings with this track. And we're seeing some more drivers in the pit lane coming out onto the track. Dylan Warren is amongst them. He is exiting the pit lane now. We'll see what he can do. Once again, he's had to do multiple runs in both Q1 and Q2 to get himself to this point. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is a scrubbed set of the tyres. Everyone else staying in their pit garage. Let us know, everyone, in the live chat who you believe is going to be taking pole position. We've got a comment from Avatar saying that Nicholas Longuet is going to be deserving to win this race. I'm going to assume that that is his pole prediction as well. We got Stieg saying Otis pole. I mean, Otis Lawrence, bit of a dark horse in this race. Not really talked about too much so far, but I would definitely like to see him right at the top of the order. He's actually just coming out onto the circuit now. And Otis Lawrence, Luke, could you put him in contention for pole position?
Why not? I mean, look how close things have been in the last two sessions. Why not? We've seen drivers just get it slightly wrong. It's very easy to do under the intense pressure of this Q3 session. I mean, there's many different drivers that could make it on there. And any one of the 10 wouldn't surprise me, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, yes, Van Dijken, Akinji and Warren and Baena probably haven't been right up there towards the top, but there's no reason why they can't do it in this Q3 session. There's no reason why they can't get everything right, but it won't be on this set of tyres for most of them, of course, and that's why we tend to go for those ones that have, managed to get through on one set of tyres earlier on, so they've got a couple of runs. They can have that little bit of a banker on, as Van Dijken just trying to weave his way past the Ferraris along the start-finish straight. We'll get a nice bit of a distant tow from one of the Ferraris, and then we'll get a massive chunk of advertising from that Ferrari coming through the chicane there. Not going to be too happy about that, I don't think.
Xander Van Dijken, his lap is completely ruined by that Ferrari parked on the apex on their out lap, and 52.9, not a competitive lap time at all. I'm going to read in the live chat, see who everyone is predicting. Drew Lessard saying Nicholas Longuet is going to take pole. Lucas H tipping Jake Benham for pole. Dino Monkey saying Ron Ha. Raymond G saying Barry on pole. I mean, I'm not too sure about that one, considering he isn't driving this evening, but maybe anything can happen in WOR, and anything will happen. Maybe Barry Borman at pole position is possible as Xander Van Dijken comes out of the final corner. Now we'll see what his time is. 1 minute 23.550. Yeah, not a competitive lap time whatsoever. I think by the end of this session, Luke, we could potentially see a 1 minute 21.9. And I think Thomas Ronhar, who's just beginning his first time here, you've certainly got to put his name first when thinking about the 21s.
Yeah, I think 22-0, you're going to need to be in and around there to get any chance of pole position. Let's see what Ronhar can do, though. On this lap, the young Dutchman has certainly caused quite a stir in the esports community. Let's see what he does in that first sector. 17.197 on his way towards turn number 5. Take that late apex down to third gear, short shifting through there. DRS open as you make your way under the Pirelli sign. He's got a nice clear track in front of him. A little bit of a gap to Baena before he comes up to the Ferraris and his teammate. And then in towards turn number 6. Again, dropping down to third gear. Won't go onto the throttle in there, though. That'll be an easy way to get yourself spinning around. It's Otis Lawrence, fastest time we've seen all day so far. All the twos for the McLaren. 22.220 for him. Now in towards turn number 9 for Ron Hall. Let's see what he can do. Flings the car into that left-hander, hoping that it's going to stick. Then 10-11, sharp braking for the right-hander at turn number 12. This has looked like a very good lap time. This looks like a time that is going to put the Dutchman on provisional pole position. Maybe, just maybe, not as perfect coming under the hotel as he would have liked to have been. And we know with how close things could be, we know how important that could be at the end of this qualifying session. Massive slide through the final corner, and somehow Bonhar still goes fastest. 22.191. There's more time to come from him, though.
He is ever so slightly quicker than Otis Lawrence. 200ths clear of the Welshman. Jake Benham is coming through the final corner now. Doesn't look very competitive from him. A 1 minute 23.6 is Jake Benham's lap time, and Dylan Warren comes back into the pit lane. So at the end of the first runs, Thomas Ronhart leading the way at the minute, ahead of Otis Lawrence, ahead of Nicholas Longay. It's pretty much those three drivers in a class of their own. Alvaro Carreton, 3/10 off the top of the order on a 1 minute 22.503. No Shanaka Clay in this session. It's all Alvaro Carreton carrying Williams' hopes in this session with 5 minutes left to go. Thomas Ronhart, I mean, with that slide off the exit of the final corner, it's a miracle that he's been able to actually take the provisional pole time, but I guess that is a real testament to his speed. Fantastic effort from him. With a 1 minute 22.191, Luke, we inch ever closer to the 1 minute 21s.
I mean, yeah, we saw it earlier on as well, though. Jake Benham, I think, had a massive slide in Q1 and still managed to set a brilliant lap time, but it wasn't quite on the scale of what we just saw Ronhart do. Looked like he was gonna lose the car completely. I still thought it was gonna be a very good lap time. As he nearly crashes into a Ferrari on the way into the pit lane. There's certainly not what you want to be doing, but yeah, brings it back into the pit lane. There's an improvement to come from him, which should mean we could see improvements from a lot of the others. We know Carreton, Fassi, Baena, Van Dijk and Benham have got more in the bag. We know Akinci and Dylan Warren have got a lap time of some sort in the bag. We'll see what Lawrence and Longay can do. I mean, Lawrence was predicted in the chat as taking pole position right where it matters. The former Xbox champion, winner here on the Xbox platform, of course, last season. He's got himself up there on a 22.220. He's certainly going to be one to watch, but things getting quiet out on circuit once again. The calm before the storm at the Yas Marina circuit. Going to be intriguing to see who takes pole position.
Yeah, absolutely. This is really the moments before what Chris Buxton likes to call the Banzai phase of qualifying. 3 minutes and a half left to go. Wouldn't be surprised if we see some early competitors coming out onto the track. I think Ika Baena, Xander Van Dijk and Ismail Fassi, maybe the likes of those drivers would want to come out a little bit earlier, fuel up the car for an extra run in case they make a mistake and have another crack at the whip. But we'll see what happens here with just 3 minutes left to go. I'm going to ask everyone once again in the live chat, now that we've seen these initial Q3 ones coming out, who's going to be taking pole position and what the pole time will be. Surely, Luke, we're going to be looking somewhere at a 1 minute 21 at the end of this session. I'd really like to see it, and we've already got some activity down on circuit. Nicholas Longay, the first one out on track.
Yeah, the Ferrari headed out onto the circuit. Not heading out early enough that he'll get a chance to do a second lap if he makes a mistake on this first one. So it is all going to be right towards the end. I think you're going to have to go faster than what Ronhart's done at the moment. I'll be surprised if that 22.191 is fast enough. I don't think we're going to get into the 21s. I think you might need a 22, a high 22.0, low 22.1 to be safe of pole position. If anyone does get into the 21s, it'll be an absolute miracle if we've got one of the Haas cars heading out there, Van Dijken as well. But Longay choosing to go out a bit earlier on, clearly feeling that he's got more in the bag. I mean, that's not too dissimilar to the time that we saw him do in Q2. So that certainly would make you suggest that there is a lot more pace to come from the Frenchman, who perhaps is ruining that he hasn't taken part in as many races so far this season. Because I think if he had done, the pace he's shown when he has been here, who knows, maybe he'd been running away with a championship. Good news for us is that he's not running away from the championship, and we've got an incredibly close championship fight. 4 drivers separated by 20 points, and we're going to have an incredibly close final. 1 minute 40 in this qualifying session. Everyone now out onto the circuit as Thomas Ronhart, last man onto the circuit, should give him the best track conditions, should give him the best chance of taking his 4th pole position of the season.
Yeah, we know that Thomas Ronhart is an absolute ace in qualifying. Nicholas Longay, we'll see what he can do as he's going to get the last bit of heat into the tyres. You can see he's braking. You look at the telemetry, he's braking as he's accelerating, trying to burn off that little bit extra fuel. This is going to be his last attempt in qualifying with just 1 minute and 10 seconds left to go. No one's actually going to have enough time for another attempt, but that's right on board with Nicholas Longay. He gets his lap underway, headed down in towards the first corner. We'll see what he can do as he's keeping as much speed as possible through here, using all the track on the exit of turn number 1, flat out through turn number 2 and through turn number 3, keeping it top speed in towards turn number 5, where it's going to be heavy braking in towards this hairpin late apex through here is what we typically see from all these drivers. A slight correction off the exit now, but opening up the DRS. No cars in front, unfortunately, for Longe to give him that little bit of a slipstream, but headed down in towards the braking zone, reaching speeds excess up to 205 miles per hour at the braking zone now. Short shifting up into fourth from third gear as he takes to the chicane. Gets the best exit possible in towards this straight where he approaches turn number 9. The sector 2 split is going to be approaching him. We'll see what his improvement is. Nicholas Longe, is he improving? He is indeed, by over a tenth and a half so far. This is looking like a provisional pole time from Nicholas Longe, ever so slightly wide through turn number 10, but now flat out through this next part of the circuit. Heavy braking as he reaches the hotel section, the most technical part of this circuit. Nicholas Longe keeping it very nice and tidy through there. Slide though as he invalidates Nicholas Longe. A critical error from him. That is his downfall. An invalidation on his lap. We'll see what he was able to do as he comes across the line. It wouldn't have been good enough with that mistake for pole position. He'd been 4,000th off the back of Thomas Ronhaar. Thomas Ronhaar is on his lap as we speak. Xander Van Dyken can manage P4 as we've got Otis Lawrence now in the final sector, but he is down on his lap ever so slightly, and it's not looking good for the Welshman. All signs are indicating there's going to be a Thomas Ronhaar pole position as now through the final corner for Otis Lawrence. Does he improve? He does not, unfortunately. Half a tenth down on his previous best. I believe it is Jake Benham coming up towards the line next. I was wrong. It was Dylan Warren, invalid on his lap. No time from him. Ismail Fassi, previous winner here, goes into P2, and Alvaro Carreton shoots to the top of the order. But for how much longer? Because Thomas Ronhaar, Luke, is improving by 0.2 of a second, and this is looking like 1 minute 21 from him. The Dutchman out the final corner. It is indeed a 1 minute 21.907 for Thomas Ronhaar. He starts on pole position, the last man to cross the line, the best track conditions possible, and the best time out of everyone tonight.
I mean, a massive gap compared to the rest of the field. A quarter of a second, pretty much. Wow. Longe would have fit in that gap. I'm certain it was a 22-0, what we were seeing from Longe, but even so, fantastic lap time from Ronhaar. Longe's invalidation means he's only down in 7th place. Carreton second. Benham in 3rd place. Ika Baena showed good pace in Q1. He gets himself in 4th. Fassi, Lawrence, Longe, Akinci, Van Dyken, and Dylan Warren failing to set a lap time there. I mean, again, look how incredibly close it is. Apart from Ronhaar, I mean, from Carreton down to Van Dyken, everyone else who set a valid lap time, all within about 0.17, 0.18 seconds. It's going to be a close race. I still think, I mean, we've seen this a lot from Ronhaar. Yes, he's got supreme qualifying pace, but you can't drive that fast all the time, not burning up your tyres so much. So just because he's dominated qualifying, does not mean he's going to dominate the race. And of course, DRS, all these different tactics, any potential safety cars, any potential weather. It is Abu Dhabi, so that is unlikely. Could make things very interesting indeed.
I mean, I don't know what to expect from this race. Last time we were here, it was a fantastic showing from the drivers. We saw some late battling, which allowed Ismail Fassi to escape up the road and take the win. He's starting from a very advantageous position, so Ismail Fassi certainly is going to be in the fight. It's definitely going to be interesting, Luke, to see where Nicholas Longe is able to find himself, given that he's starting from 7th. But Luke, before we get underway, who's your top 3?
Oh, that's a bold prediction. I'm not quite sure who's going to be. I think I'm going to go for Carreton to take the victory. Actually, I think in the end, I'll go Carreton to take the victory. Ronhaar in 2nd, and I'm going to go for Benham to take 3rd place. That is a look at the track map. We are nearly ready to get this race underway.
Absolutely. Soon enough, everyone, we're going to be seeing the 5 red lights illuminated along this Abu Dhabi circuit. As here we are getting ready. It's Carreton on the left, Ronhaar on the left, actually, as now 5 red lights here, and we are underway. Thomas Ronhaar leading away, but it looks to be a decent start from Alvaro Carreton, challenging him in towards the braking zone at turn number 1. They're going to be side by side through the first apex. Jake Benham trying to find a way, and there's contact further back behind. I believe that's Otis Lawrence sent into a spin contact with Chanakinchi, and they're both tumbling down the order. Meanwhile, at the front of the order now, Thomas Ronhaar still leading the way from Alvaro Carreton. Inside line in towards turn number 4. There's carnage further back behind, as now there's a full-blown VSC, I believe, at the end of the first sector. We've been grinded to a halt. So much contact, so many issues along the way here. Luke Smith, Chanakinchi, Duncan Hoffland, all of them involved in incidents somewhere along the road. And I wonder who's got damage, Luke.
Yeah, I think it was something happened between Baena and Lawrence and Akinci, and that just seemed to trigger all of that further back, though it is a virtual safety car. I can't see anyone with massive damage on their cars. Well, I say that, I've just gone to look at Janakinci. It's completely missing his front wing, so yeah, the Turkish man really losing out massively in all of that, and we are back to green flag action pretty quickly. Cavaton was so close to overtaking Thomas Ronhall there. He'll be very frustrated by that VSC period. Everyone is on a set of the hard tyres.
I think the VSC came out possibly the worst time for Alvaro Carreton when he was right at the inside of a heavy braking zone. He could have made that move stick, but unfortunately, of course, no overtaking underneath the yellow flag conditions. All of our championship leaders still alive, though, in this race. None of them were involved in an incident. And in fact, it's a 1, 2, 3, 5 for our championship leaders as now Thomas Ronhard comes across the line to complete the first lap. Max Wiesel and Duncan Hoffman, both Alpha and both Aston Martin, coming into the pit lane. Actually, I was wrong about that. Duncan Hoffman's just had an incident somewhere along the road. It's Wiesel, West, and Akinci all coming into the pit lane with some form of wing damage. Their race really going to be in ruins unless they can find a way back into this one. As Max Wiesel, he picked up a time penalty. He already had a grid penalty coming into this one. He is now our first retirement from this race, and he's out, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's not gone well for him at all, has it? Had that grid penalty early on, way down the order. Has been involved in some contact on the first lap of the race. So it's going to be a set of the medium tyres for Western Akinci. They'll be hoping for a safety car or something else to happen later on in this race. Otherwise, they're not going to have any chance of really putting in a good result. What that VSC has done, normally what we've seen quite often in the first laps of races, is whoever takes the lead tries to just escape away from the rest of the field. Ronhard's not had that opportunity this time around, so it's kept it a lot more closely bunched up. Everyone apart from those that have come into the... Actually, no, there is a split in the field at Duncan Hoffman. So the top 13 all in that one train at the moment, and that's going to make it interesting when it comes to strategy later on. Any penalties could be extremely costly, and we've already seen how close we've come to invalidations. I mean, Nico Longe, where would he be starting if he hadn't made a mistake on that lap? Probably on the front row of the grid. Instead, he's looking at the back of Ismail Fassi at the moment. Not what he needs to be doing for his championship contenders with his three main rivals, all being 1, 2, 3 at the moment. But it is still very early days, of course, and it is still Thomas Ronhard in the lead of this race by 6.5 tenths of a second from Alvaro Carreton.
And DRS has been enabled now. Thomas Ronhard has not been able to stretch that advantage to the 1 second window that he needs so that Alvaro Carreton doesn't get that drag reductive system headed down this straightway. He's able to open up the letterbox at the rear wing. Got yellow flags in sector 3. That's either Jack West or Chanakinci having some sort of incident there, but headed down into the braking zone. Carreton not deciding to push. Ben Jabakoni coming under pressure from Otis Lawrence, and Lawrence is up the inside in towards the braking zone. Oh dear, heavy braking through there. He's gone way too deep, and he's gone into the side of Shanaka Clay, put him offline ever so slightly, and now all of a sudden Ben Jabakoni looking to the outside of the Williams Esports driver, now headed down into the braking zone at turn number 9. They're going to run wheel to wheel through here. Will Jabakoni be able to use the momentum on the outside? He can't quite do it. However, Otis Lawrence going to suffer the most there. He made the move on Ben Jabakoni, outbroke himself, went into the side of Shanaka Clay, and then unfortunately he lost that position. Jabakoni was just able to ghost through him, but Otis Lawrence, Luke, it seemed like frustrations are getting the better of him with that incident on the first lap. He's now out of the points paying positions. He's in 12th position. He really does need to get some moves done, but it seems like his head just not level.
Yeah, not being the most elite driving from the man formerly known as Elite at the moment, has he? Got himself involved in all sorts of incidents. Not an ideal return to WOR for him, but he's still in the race. Who knows what could happen later on? We'll wait and see if there is any comeback in terms of the stewards' inquiries later on. That will only happen if Baena or anyone else involved in that incident reports it. And in case you're wondering why the penalty didn't get removed for Max Wiesel, he didn't report it. Therefore, nothing for the stewards to really look at in that situation. Carreton still extremely close to the back of Thomas Ronhard. I mean, we saw this at Saudi Arabia. They're not going to bother overtaking at the first stage of the race. They're going to be quite happy, I think, just to sit back, save a bit of ERS, save a bit of tyres, and see what happens right in and around the pit stop period.
Yep, I think Alvaro Carreton is definitely going to be happy that he's been able to keep with Thomas Ronhard, but neither driver really doing any much pushing at the minute. The pair of them have 89 and 90% in their ERS. I'm trying to see who has used quite a bit of their battery so far. It seems like everyone's been relatively calm with resource management. Ismail Fassi's only got 75% in his Red Bull. Xander Van Dyken around about the same as Fassi. But other than that, everyone inside the top 10 has got most of their battery to spare. So it seems like no one really wanting to push at this point in the Grand Prix. That could be good signs for the likes of Hoffland, Shelson, and Luke Smith and Prejnader, given that they're not too far off the back of the DRS training. If no one's really pushing at this point in the Grand Prix, they can maybe use some of the battery themselves and get back within the DRS range of their rivals. But once again, Luke, I'm seeing, as I look to the timing tower, Otis Lawrence getting very close to the back of Benz Zabo Konyi. We'll see what the Welshman can do as he's now approaching turn number 4 and 5. He's on the battery, headed through here. Will he go for a late lunge in towards the braking zone? It'd definitely be ambitious. And he is going to stay behind for the time being. But so far, in P12, it is a nightmare start for Otis Lawrence.
Yeah, it seems to have had a good race, a bad race, and then a good race in WOR. Unfortunately for him, that means he might be having a bad race now. Going to have to go down the inside on the run down towards turn number 6 on Benjisabo Konyi, the Hungarian, trying to defend that outside line for all that it is worth at the moment. As Xander Van Dyken, he's had a moment as well. So the Haas car's had some sort of incident coming through that chicane. Nightmare for him. Drops all the way down to 13th, and he's now going to come under massive pressure from his former VSR teammate, Duncan Hoffland. Duncan not close enough to get that moved on, so Van Dyken having some sort of issue, and that's put a split in the field because Dylan Warren is now more than a second behind Nico Longe, so don't be surprised if the Englishman, who's had a bit of a renaissance on F1 22, if we're being honest, a bit of a name, a blast from the past, from those who remember him on the PlayStation days, and then originally, just as the PC platform was coming good, he's putting in some good performances on this game, and it looks like, despite Q3 not going as he would have planned, yet to set a lap time, he's got himself back into that train, so Dylan Warren in 6th place at the moment, possibly able to give his teammate for tonight, Jake Benham, a bit of support. That's not something you can probably say, certainly not about Ronhor now, and possibly not about Cavaton and Longay as well.
Yeah, definitely not for Nicholas Longay's teammate, Janakinchi, on a different strategy now that he's had the incident early on. He had to replace his front wing. Shanaka Clay still is involved in the fight, probably at the worst distance, though, to Alvaro Caraton. For his sake, of course, he's not able to help out his teammate, but he is going to be suffering from being within that double stack window as Chanakinchi retires in the pit lane. He is out and makes that 2 retirements in this race. But as I was saying, Shanika Clay, he is going to have to double stack with Alvaro Caraton, and that is just not possible on this game. So really unfortunate for him. He might have to extend his stint ever so slightly in this Grand Prix, and it's not going to be all for the best. I think the same goes for Dylan Warren as Chanakinchi, he leaves the session. Luke, has definitely been a scrappy start to this Grand Prix, but at the end of lap number 6, Thomas Ronhar is still leading the way. Alvaro Caraton, though, is keeping him humble.
Yeah, he's keeping him honest at the moment, isn't he, Cavaton? He's just waiting in there. If Ronhar makes a slight mistake, Cavaton will certainly be there to pounce. I'd be surprised to see any double stacking going on unless there is a safety car. Then it might be worth it just a bit more than some of the others. Just looking at the position changes on the left-hand side. Yes, there has been a bit of chaos, but fair play to the Hungarian duo at the moment. Dani Berejde up 6 places. Istvan Pukki up 8 places, and we know how quick Berejde could be. Maybe these two are going to be ones to watch later on. And for Pukki as well, he's about 40 points behind in the championship hunt at the moment. Mathematically, still has a chance, but really needed a better qualifying session to have a realistic opportunity of winning the championship. Looking more and more like it is a 4-horse race in the title. And looking like Longe's wanting to make that top 4. The top 4 in the race. Fassi's gone deep in towards the 6-7 chicane. This might just give Longe the opportunity that he needs. ERS on, DRS open. Can Longe get close enough to the back of the Red Bull? That's pretty nippy in a straight line, Ismail Fassi at the moment. And despite having a terrible exit, Fassi was able to hold on to that position. So certainly frustrating Longe at the moment.
Yeah, he was able to spam his battery there and then just stay ahead, sitting in the DRS of Jake Benham ahead of him. Nicholas Longe is going to have the resource advantage. He's got about 30% more ERS than Ismail Fassi, and he's still within touching distance. So Fassi, oh dear, a little bit of a snap of steering off the exit of turn number 13. He's losing a lot of time to Jake Benham. Probably going to be frustrating Nicholas Longe even more, sitting in the wheel tracks with him. Jack West leaves the session. I think that's fair enough. He's sitting 30 seconds behind everyone else by himself. But Luke, I think Nicholas Longe is imperative that he makes this move as soon as possible, because they are within the danger territory of losing DRS to Jake Benham in front. And in fact, Alvaro Caraton has actually lost that 1 second window that he needs to Thomas Ronhaar. So Caraton now without DRS could be coming under some pressure from Jake Benham, but Nicholas Longe with a less than ideal exit off the exit of turn number 5. And Ismail Fassi is just able to stay ahead of him. Once again, here comes Jake Benham into the braking zone at turn number 6. He gets close to the rear of Alvaro Caraton. Potentially doesn't want to go for the move, given that the detection point for the next DRS straight is right at the exit of turn number 7. And here he is now, Jake Benham on the battery off the exit of the chicane. Now in the wheel tracks of Alvaro Caraton. He needs to get by if he wants to try and take DRS from Thomas Ronhaar. He gets close to the back of Caraton. Doesn't use as much battery as I think he really should have. Maybe he did. I think Luke, he should have gone for that move.
Yeah, I think he should have. That would have been possibly a good opportunity. Don't think he would have had to really push himself too far offline, but in the end decides, no, I'm quite happy to stay in that second position. Well, in that second group now, you could say that Ronhaar has got away. But we've seen this from Jake before, where the first half of the race, he's happy just to calmly pick them off as and when it suits him, and always seems to be there and thereabouts when it comes to the strategy later on. Unsurprisingly, Thomas Ronhaar has set the fastest lap of the race, and he's not burnt up too much of his battery, but he's at 60% at the moment. Caraton just on slightly more, and Jake Benham on 90% shows exactly how much interest he had in taking that position. What that little bit of a push has done, though, it's just nearly dropped Fassi outside of that DRS range, but Longe not close enough to take advantage at the moment. Someone who might be close enough to take advantage, though, Danny Bareste, sends it down the inside in towards turn number 5. And it's now going to be a straight drag race between the Mercedes of Warren and the Alfa Romeo of Beresne in the wheel tracks. Goes to Hungarian. Can he get close enough? Can he send one down the inside? Or will he wait until the next DRS straight? It looks like he's going to wait for now.
Oh, wow, Danny Beresne very ambitious in towards turn number 5. Dylan Warren saved by the fact that he was in the slipstream and DRS of Nicholas Longe, who looks to be getting a move on now on Ismail Fassi. Headed up the inside in towards turn number 9. He gets that move done nice and tidily. I don't think Ismail Fassi really had any interest in defending that position. And now, Luke, we have all the championship contenders in the top 4. Thomas Ronhaar leading the way from Caraton. Jake Benham in third. And Nicholas Longe a little bit ways back in P4. But if he's just able to use some of his battery and push to get close, he'll be within that DRS range of Jake Benham in a matter of minutes. As once again, Danny Beresne getting close to the rear of Dylan Warren. We know he likes braking late, and we've seen his camera footage of him just absolutely slamming his brake pedal. And I think that is in full force tonight.
Yeah, I remember having some plastic pedals on the PS3 with one of the steering wheels that I managed to snap in half. I dread to think what Danny Beresne would have done to them back in those days. Probably obliterated them into a million pieces, and he's trying to just obliterate the field at the moment. Doing what you have to do in a DRS trade if you think you're faster. Put a move in at somewhere where the other driver wasn't expecting it. Thankfully, Warren expected it enough to get out of the way. But yeah, in the end, Dylan was able to get the better exit, and it looks like he's going to have the better exit on Ismail Fassi here, straight down the inside, long before we get to the braking zone for turn number 6, and that is Dylan Warren in towards the top 5, and I don't think it'll be too long before Beresne and some of the others following through. Who knows, it might not be too long before we see Ismail Fassi coming to the pits for a set of the medium tyres. I know there's still a long way to go in this race, but if it was to finish now, Thomas Ronhaar would take the championship lead on 114 points. Jake Benham would be 3 points further back on 111. Nicholas Longe would have 98 points, and Alvaro Caraton would have 94 points. So the top 4 would still be separated by 20 points going into the final 2 races, but we've got plenty more action to go tonight before we can certainly say who's going to take the victory.
And just a quick one to note, I didn't expect tonight to be seeing someone go for a dive bomb at the high-speed left-hander of turn number 9, but Danny Beresne proved me wrong. He's got by an Ismail Fassi, who now, Luke, just seems to be slipping down the order. Isfan Pookie is next up behind him. He's almost got full battery in his AlphaTauri. Ismail Fassi only got about 30%, so Isfan Pookie really on a recovery drive at the moment. He was eliminated in Q1, but he's found himself getting through all of the incidences unscathed now fighting inside the top 10. He's had a stellar performance so far in this race, and he's made up for his blunders in qualifying. He's opening up the DRS, and he's on the battery on the rear of Ismail Fassi, who has, to look at the front of the order, Jake Benham, Luke, he's actually just gone by on Alvaro Caraton, as Isfan Pookie does make that move stick on Fassi. Two very routine DRS overtakes for second and for P7.
Yeah, Benham and Cavaton, might be worth them just swapping around and working together to try and catch up to Thomas Ronhar, and also to try and stop Nicholas Longe catching up to them, and it just gets from bad for worse for Fassi. This is what happens when you get out of kilter and out of sync with your battery. Look at that. Shelaka Clay has got ahead of him as well. Otis Lawrence almost trying to poke a nose down the inside. That was nearly 3 crashes in the space of 11 laps there for Lawrence. Thankfully, he was able to dive back out of it in time. Yeah, Fassi just plummeting down the field, and Cavaton didn't defend whatsoever, didn't look interested at all, and he has burnt up a lot of his battery, as has Jake Benham, but that might be worth it if they can get themselves back into the DRS range of Thomas Ronhart. If not, will be worth them trying the overcuts. We're probably not too far away from the pit stop period.
They've come within inches of getting back within that DRS range of Thomas Ronhart, but their efforts have been futile thus far. Alvaro Caraton was completely flat on the battery when Jake Benham got by, so really there was no point in defending that move for him, as Ismail Fassi once again, Luke, I think he's suffering a similar fate to what he's seen earlier on in this race. I mean, the last few laps have been absolute hell for him, because now Otis Lawrence is going to put him in danger of being eliminated from the top 10. This is the move for P9. Will he try and make this move stick? Ismail Fassi keeping his foot in there and headed down in towards the braking zone at turn number 6. Ismail Fassi is going to stay ahead. He defends ever so slightly on Otis Lawrence, so much so that it puts him offline. A little bit of contact between the pair of them now off the exit of the chicane. Otis Lawrence, frustration is going to be running at an all-time high for the young Welshman. He sees that Fassi is low on his battery, the blinking red lights on the Red Bull. Will he look towards the inside? And he has to go the long way around as Fassi defends towards the left-hand side, and now Otis Lawrence offline in towards the corner. Not good from him there. He's not been able to make the move stick, but he's on the battery off the exit of turn number 10, and he's putting so much pressure onto Ismail Fassi, looking towards the inside into the third sector. They're both off the track. Ben Zabokonyi trying to find a way to weave in through here. Once again off the road. Zabokonyi to the inside line, and now they're 3 wide in the final sector. In through turn number 14 they go. Zabokonyi, the big beneficiary in all of that. Otis Lawrence once again just denied these positions by so much in this race. It's really not gone his way at all. Ismail Fassi in all of that has lost 3 places, because now Ikabaena has got by on him. He's now down out of the top 10 and into P12. But Otis Lawrence once again, Luke, frustrated as ever.
Yeah, well, we'll see if he has a go at Charbel Conye. He's already, he's overtaken him early on and had a bit of a tap on Shinaka Clay while doing so. It looked like Lawrence took his inspiration from, from what we saw Fernando Alonso do on Lewis Hamilton at Bahrain to try and force the car in front offline, but Fassi defended pretty well, and in the end there was a lot of contact between them, and Fassi, he's now plummeted down the order. I think he might be heading his way to the pit lane as Lawrence taps the back of the Hungarian Charbel Conye. Baena taps the back of Otis Lawrence, and I think we're going to see some more moves up ahead. That is Dylan Warren round the outside of Nicholas Longe. Dylan Warren up into the top 4 here.
Come from? I mean, he was in behind Nicholas Longe, but we expected Longe to be, in a fantastic position and getting himself back within DRS range of Alvaro Caraton, and that just hasn't happened. He's now 2.5 seconds behind the top 3, who are absolutely running away with this race, and Nicholas Longe, this is not going to do him any favors for his championship hunt, being behind Dylan Warren, losing critical points in this race. We've seen Jack West, I think that's his AI, coming into the pit lane for a set of the hard compound of tyres. So still, no one has made a scheduled pit stop so far in this race. But look, we are nearing the halfway point in the Grand Prix. I believe it is going to be halfway. Oh dear. Oh, sorry, that's in the pit lane. Ismail Fassi, he retires. I wonder if there was any wing damage to his Red Bull at some point there, because it isn't normal that we see drivers just plummet right down the order like that. You lose some pace and you can be overtaken, but the way that it happened for Fassi, I mean, it was just overtake after overtake. Either he just lost all pace altogether, or he had some sort of wing damage that wasn't visual to us. But nevertheless, he is out of this Grand Prix. Is now Nicholas Longe responding to Dylan Warren. He goes up the inside in towards turn number 6. That was a late move on the Mercedes, and he really is feeling the pressure. He needs to get by.
Yeah, he does need to get by, but he's not able to do so at the moment, and that's just allowing Danny Berejne to come. They're going to be three wide on the run down towards turn number 9. Who's going to take the advantage of this one? I think it's Berejne all the way round the outside on Nico Longe. It's 2 for 1 from the Alfa Romeo. Superb driving. Danny Berejne gets himself into 4th place. All that effort for Nicolas Longe, and he's just back in 5th.
Oh, Mr. 100%. Danny Berejne. I mean, Luke, if we see a safety car here, it's not a crazy prediction to put Danny Berejne's name in the ring for the win of this race. He's won both of his attempts in WOR. He's looking to make it 3 out of 3s into P4. And the top 3 are romping away with this race. But Danny Berejne really living up to his reputation of being an incredible overtaker and going very late on the brakes right around the outside of 2 drivers at turn number 9. You've got to have balls of steel to do that one there. And Danny Berejne, he's proven that he does have that. Incredible stuff from him. And on all of that, Luke, he's still got 65% of his battery. Compare that to Caraton, 30% in the Williams, and only 10% for Jake Benham. I mean, if he has a good stint for the rest of his hard tires, and then he has a good outlap and he gets close to the rear of these guys, Danny Berejne could be fighting for the win.
Yeah, you never know what could happen if any penalties start to come into play as well. That's going to bring Berejne right back in towards things. Longe not close enough to go for the move this time around. We have seen our first scheduled pit stop, and that is Zander Van Dijken, who was up not far away from this battle earlier on before he had that spin. He's come out of the pits on a fresh set of medium tyres down in towards 16th, and you can see the blue spanner and screwdriver icon on Danny Berejne's car suggesting that he's coming into the pits this lap. Judging by his ERS and judging by how much grip those tyres clearly had 1 lap ago, I'd say he doesn't need to come into the pits just yet. So not surprising to see him staying out there. And we have got our first of the front runners making their way into the pits. Dylan Warren trying to do an undercut here, which could possibly get him back into that 4th place. Now, it will take a bit of time for the tyres to heat up, but the others will be vulnerable once they come out of the pits. Shanaka Clay and Daniel Shelson also on their way in as well. As out at front, Thomas Ronhar, wouldn't be surprised to see him coming into the pits this lap. He's extended that gap to nearly 2 seconds. We know he loves this circuit. You can see why at the moment.
Yeah, we know that Thomas Ronhard, though, Luke, he does love to have long stints in league races, as Alvaro Caraton makes another move for P2 in this race. He gets back by on Jake Benham. No real defense from Jake at any point, as now Nicolas Longe gets close to the rear of Danny Berejne. Of course, these two have got a very close working relationship. They were former teammates at Alfa Romeo. Is now opening up the DRS. Longe is on the battery, headed down in towards turn number 9. He's getting close to the back of Danny Berejne. He's going to look towards the inside. Berejne not fighting this one too hard, and Nicolas Longe up into P4, but he's sacrificed once again a lot of time to the drivers up ahead, and they seem almost untouchable in this race. But given how much ERS he was using there and how committed he was on these tires, not really regarding for their health at this point in the race. And Luke, I think you've jinxed it here. Jake Benham, 3-second time penalty. You mentioned that the penalties are going to come into effect here, and Benham is the first of anyone to get a 3-second time penalty in this race. Caraton is going to come into the pits, as is Nicolas Longe. Berejne, Ronhar and Benham all going to be staying out here.
Yeah, and this, of course, I mean, judging by the gap we had, it might not cost Benham too much, but yeah, not an ideal situation whatsoever. Might have to be a bit more careful throughout the rest of the race, as Luke Smith's retired from the race. That is in the pit lane. Smith's retired, so that won't cause any safety car or any issues. I just had to check that it wasn't on the way into the pit lane, but no, certainly was in the pit. So that is our 4th retirement from this race. We're only on lap number 17, and they've all been from separate incidents. So yeah, quite attritional at the moment, this Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, but we'll wait and see what the rest of the race has in store for us. As here comes Istvan Pukki all of a sudden. Let's not count him out from a podium place. Down the inside goes Istvan Pukki, and all of a sudden, after getting eliminated in Q1, Pukki is in a podium place. Yes, pit stops will change things. He's looking very good indeed.
Yeah, incredible stuff from Istvan Pukki. He's really putting off an overtaking masterclass, and I feel that that's going to be a little bit of a handing of the torch between the Hungarians, but Danny Berejne is not going to take that one lying down. I was going to say, it's sort of him handing the torch as the dominant Hungarian driver in F1 Esports, and he tries to take that one back off him, but Istvan Pukki says no, and he stays in P3. And Luke, I want to bring your attention to the power of the undercut, because Dylan Warren and Shanaka Clay have both with 1 lap holder medium compound tyres. They've come out ahead of Nicholas Longe, and now Thomas Ronhar and Jake Burnham, Isfan Pookie, Danny Beresnay, the last of the hard runners in this race, coming into the pit lane. It's critical that we watch Alvaro Caraton, who's now got those medium tyres up to temperature. He's got hardly anything in the battery at this point in the race, but where will he emerge in comparison to Thomas Ronhar? We know that Ronhar likes to go long in these races, and he is able to get the most out of his tyres, but coming in towards turn number 1 comes Alvaro Caraton, and he's going to be around about level with Thomas Ronhar. Have the warmer medium tyres, and he will be ahead of Thomas, who will be within that DRS range of him there. But wow, Alvaro Caraton now, Luke, is leading this race. Jake Benham is able to get ahead of Dylan Warren, who now sits in P4, Shanaka Clay in 5th, and Nicholas Longe all the way down in P6 now.
Yeah, Jake Benham needs Dylan Warren to do what Sergio Perez did in 2021 here and just drive the widest car in Abu Dhabi, just to try and do anything to hold back the rest of the field because of that penalty that he's got. Beresday and Pookie swapping around once more. We saw, I think, Shelton and Lawrence for 2 McLarens also having their own little battle. Can Alvaro Caraton? He's got nothing in the battery. He's got no DRS. Can he do anything to stop Thomas Ronhar? Not too surprising that he couldn't. Ahead before the braking zone, Ronhar retakes the lead of this race, but that undercut might just have kept Caraton safe in 2nd position. All of a sudden, though, especially because of the penalty, it is anyone's guess as to who's going to finish in 3rd.
And that, at the moment, is going to be Dylan Warren taking P3. I mean, what a resurgence from this man. He's gone quiet since F1 2020, and now he's really come back to form. Dylan Warren, I've seen him both in PSGL as well as WOR. He's been incredibly quick, and he seems to really enjoy this Abu Dhabi circuit. I know he loves Canada as well, but he seems to really have some pace around the Yas Marina circuit. Otis Lawrence now with the fastest lap of this race. His race is improving ever so slightly. I mean, you don't get a point for the fastest lap, and even so, it's been taken away from Ikabayana, but he is close to the back of Xander Van Dyken, who does have 2-lap holder medium tyres. We'll have to watch for that battle as headed through the hairpin they go. Will Otis Lawrence get on the battery as early as possible? He's got a better exit than Van Dyken, and now headed down the DRS straight. It's a routine overtake from the Welshman. He gets by on Van Dyken, headed down in towards turn number 6. He secures that position. He moves over back towards the right hand side. Xander Van Dyken, Luke, no fight put up there.
Yeah, I think Xander realising that's not really his battle at the moment. Maybe just try and hang with Otis Lawrence and see what he can do. Since coming out the pit lane, Beresday and Pookie trying to use their fresher tyres, trying to get themselves back into that train. They've done so much hard work that would be a shame to see them lose out. The fresher tyres might be able to help them later on. They're certainly helping Ronhar at the moment. He's nearly broke his 2nd away from Alvaro Caraton. Yes, he gained all that, advantage coming out of the pit lane, pushed as hard as possible. He's now just starting to see the negative from that short-term gain, very possibly long-term pain. But 2nd place would still be a great result for the Spaniard. Ronhar sets the fastest lap of the race. See what's going to happen in the battle for, as we stand provisionally, 3rd place, because Jake's penalty, of course, means it is between Warren, Clay and Longe at the moment. And I think given what the gap was like earlier on, Nico Longe would have taken this with 10 laps to go. A shot at getting on the podium once again for the Frenchman.
Yep, here he is. He's on the back of Shanaka Clay with 1 lap fresher tyres. That's not a massive difference, but it is enough to give the advantage to Nico. And now off the exit of the turn number 5 hairpin, we're going to see once again another battle in towards turn number 6. He's off the battery though, headed down through here. The DRS really doing wonders for Shanaka Clay, and in towards the break is only in a half look at going up the inside of the Williams representative. We did not think about it, as now off the exit of this chicane where we see sort of the brunt of the overtakes in this race. He's on the battery through here. He's in the wheel tracks of the Williams, and now he's looking to the inside line. Similar move to what he made on Danny Beresnay. He goes up the inside. He is now into P3. It's a provisional P4, of course, pending the penalty that is headed Jake Benham's way. But Benham actually pulling out a decent gap to Nico. He could potentially be ahead by the end of this race, especially when those fresher tyres are going to be doing wonders. Once Nico's and Dylan's and Shanaka's tyres all fall off the cliff, Jake Benham's going to have that little bit of extra life. He still could be on the podium by the end of this race. I think that's going to be amplified by the fact that he has now dropped Dylan Warren from DRS, who is struggling with the battery. He's only got 3% of ERS, and Nicholas Longe surely is going to be eyeing up that P4.
Yeah, he might not be close enough to get it on this lap, and Dylan's not the full-time driver in the Mercedes. That is Tomac Paradjic, but there still might be a little bit of teamwork between them here because they are very good mates. It could be worth Dylan if he holds into that position now. Maybe just being a bit slower than normal in Sector 3. It's a bit of a cheeky tactic, but it would certainly help his teammate out and stop Jake losing as many places, because at the moment, if we bring up the gap towards the leader, Jake Benham would be very close to dropping behind Danny Baveshne down towards 7th place. He might be the championship leader. That is certainly not what he would want and would be very costly heading into the final 2 races. Mexico next week and then Austria on April the, I believe it's going to be April the 9th for that one. But here comes Nico Longe again in the wheel tracks of Dylan Warren. Close enough this time. Down the inside goes the Ferrari. That's the end of that tactic. Nico Longe onto a provisional podium. We'll see if we can catch up to the back of Jake Benham, though.
Yeah, that was a late move from Nico, and Dylan Warren really didn't want to give that one up. I don't think he expected Nico to go up the inside, but he left him the space. Fair play to Dylan, and he's still running a very solid race in P5. And Luke, I want to touch on the fact that if anyone were to get a penalty, I think it'd be best to be Jake Benham. He's still leading this championship. If it were the likes of Longe or Caraton getting the penalty, that could have been their end of their championship hunt. They would have been in a very unfavourable position with just 2 races left to go. Benham is still well and truly going to be in the fight for the championship by the end of this one, as Otis Lawrence makes it our second 3-second time penalty of the day. Really, it really just isn't going his way. He'll drop outside the top 10 with that penalty, and all of his work with his late moves and his contact, making with other drivers, that's all going to be undone. So really unfortunate for Otis Lawrence, and I think he's just got to run it back. He's got to keep his head level, make sure he doesn't pick up any more penalties, doesn't get into any trouble with the stewards, then come back next week. Of course, it's going to be still have the opportunity to win races. We know how good of a driver he is, but today he's just had an off day, and I think everyone is entitled to that at least once in a while.
Yeah, I think especially, being perhaps a bit of a young driver, doesn't have that same experience. I remember when I was 14, I don't think there was any F1 games, but I've just shown my age a tiny bit then. But yeah, Otis, he's had a bad day, just needs to try and deal with it, get over it, and just accept that it's one of those races. And if we do see him again in Mexico and Austria, we know he's got the pace to be up there towards the front of the order, as has this man, Danny Baveshne. He's got onto the back of Shinaka Clay, 2 laps. Fresher tyres than the Williams man ahead of him, who say he's not going to have a chance of getting a podium. He's won every WOR race he's taken part in. If he wins this one, it means we're probably going to have one of the craziest finales that we'll be talking about until the end of time. But still on for a very good points finish, on for a possibly 6th place at the moment, depending how close he can get to the back of Jake Benham, and he's dragged Istvan Pukit along with him at the front of the field. Thomas Wanhar trying to break that 1 second window at the moment, but fair play to Alvaro Caraton. He's hanging on in there, and Wanhar has also killed all of his batteries. So this could be one to watch in the final few laps of the race, because it's effectively a 14-point swing if Caraton can somehow take the victory from Wanhar.
Absolutely, as we definitely still do need to keep an eye on these guys. I think everyone sort of dying down in the battling for the time being. Pookie and Berejne have been able to catch up to the train, which is following Nicholas Longe. This provisionally is the battle for P3, given that Jake Benham has a time penalty. But of course, it is possible for him to get that penalty removed, if he submits it to the stewards. So don't count everything right now. We have to see, once pending stewards' results, Nicholas Longe might not be on the podium by the end of this race, and he could be dropping points to Jake Benham, which is not going to be handy for his championship hopes. He's still within the fight here. He's 10 points off of Jake Benham, and certainly he will still be in contention by the end of this race, of course, unless something happens massive as Prejneda leaves the session. But on lap number 24 of 29, we've had, once again, Luke, another retirement. And with Jack West just driving an AI mode, we've only got 13 drivers left in this race. It's been a very scrappy showing. I think maybe it shows signs of these guys just getting that little bit more tired of this game, hoping for F1 23 as soon as possible.
Yeah, but just by previous years, we've got about 3 years left of F1 22. So who knows? We might see them on some other games. I think a lot of them, that are out of the battle, we don't like to see them retiring, but they're just thinking, you know what, it's really not worth their time at the moment. And I probably can't blame them too much for thinking that, if I'm being brutally honest. We've still got this train for 4th at the moment. Longe, Warren, Clay, Baveshne and Pookie. They're thinking tonight is certainly worth their time. Beresne was trying to close up to the back of those in front of him as Benchisabo Konye down the inside of Xander Van Dijken up into 11th, up into what is currently, with Otis Lawrence's penalty, a provisional points playing position. So Benchisabo Konye has been in and around the points all race, might get himself rewarded by the end of this one with 5 laps to go. Thomas Ronhaar leads, Caraton in second, Jake Benham in third place. If he can pull out 1.3 more seconds, Jake Benham's going to get a penalty, even if that... Well, going to get a podium, even if that penalty isn't removed. It is going to be a tall ask, but he's doing a very good job of things as it stands at the moment. Caraton's still not able to get close enough to Ronhaar. When you're in the 0.8 of a second range, you're not really getting too much slipstream. So DRS is having to do a lot of legwork at the moment. And Jack West's AI car just perhaps helping out a tiny bit there.
Giving him a slight healthy dosage of slipstream and headed in towards the braking zone. Alvaro Caraton, he does get close to the back of Thomas Ronhaar, and they're going to get by on the AI car of Jack West. Caraton really does just have to bide his time here, sit in the DRS with Thomas Ronhaar, not use any of his battery until the last few laps. But given the high-speed nature of this circuit, and there's not too many heavy braking zones for you to actually recharge the battery, it is very difficult to manage the ERS around this circuit. So Caraton might be in a spot to bother, headed in towards the last few laps of this race. We've got 4 to go this time by, so this race really is coming towards its end. We are in the twilight era of this race. Ronhaar still leading from Alvaro Caraton, as he has been doing for most of this race. Jake Benham completely fallen off in this fight. He's now 2.8 seconds behind Ronhaar and Caraton. I think that is due to the fact that, well, actually, no, he pitted on the same lap as Thomas Ronhaar, but for some reason he's just not been able to keep up with the pace of the Dutchman. And Nicolas Longuet still sitting within that 1.5 second window. I think he's pretty happy where he is, Nico. He doesn't really see any need to push, especially Jake Benham is taking this time penalty. Jake Benham's actually going to get a nice dosage of DRS on Jack West's AI car, who's really causing some trouble. I think it would have been nice if Jack just decided to retire it in the pit lane rather than keep his AI out on circuit, but I don't think there's going to be any repercussions for that. Is now headed down in towards the braking zone. Benham is ahead. So with about 3.5 laps left to go, Luke, nothing's really happening at the minute, but I think there's potential for some battling here.
Oh, there's plenty of potential for some battling. I think the final points places are looking pretty interesting. You never know. Is Dylan Warren going to find something extra in his tyres, or Warrens and Clay's going to hang on and we're going to see Beresne and Pookie get involved? What's going to happen at the front of the field? Alvaro Caraton within 0.6 of a second. I think he'll take second place because he's ahead of Jake Benham still with that second place. So it's not too worrying for him. It would put him 20 points behind Ronhaar. He's 20 points behind Benham at the moment. Means it would be out of his hands going into the final 2 races. But, again, you know how close things are. You never know if there's going to be any penalties. Something may have happened between Ronhaar and Warren in qualifying. We'll get to ask that if Ronhaar gets in the podium interviews, which, barring an accident or some PC failure, looks like he will do at the moment. 3 laps to go. Ronhaar leading, Caraton in second, Benham in third. Potentially going to drop outside the top 5, though. Very close to that 3 seconds with Shinaka Clay. So it looks like it is going to be Nico Longuet on the podium for now. Like you said, Dan, he's just doing what he wants at the moment. Longuet just knows he needs to keep that gap within 3 seconds. No point driving too hard and trying to catch up to Jake Benham, because that's not going to happen in the final 2 and a bit laps. So just take the provisional 3rd place, wait and see what happens in the stewards. Given the fact that he qualified in 7th, that's not too bad of a day.
No, and it's not a massive points difference between 3rd and 4th. It's like 3 points at the end of it. I mean, every point does matter in league racing, but I don't think it's the end of the world for Nicolas Longuet. I think he would have been a lot more annoyed if this was for the win of the race. You know, maybe he would have been trying to fight and just secure that position, because of course anything can happen. Jake Benham can get this penalty removed, but given that it is for P3 and not for the race win, I don't see Nicolas Longuet having all too much of a bother, as once again Daniel Shelson gets by on Benchisabo Konye, and these two are going to do battle, headed down in towards the 3rd sector. Duncan Hoffland trying to stick his nose in here. We've got a tantalizing effort from all 4 of these guys fighting for the last points paying position. So far it is Xabo Konye having the advantage, but Duncan Hoffland does, Luke, have 2 lap fresher tyres than all of his rivals. So Hoffland, we could see him in the points paying position given how his race has gone. it's not been ideal. I don't think he's been running in the top 10 at all this race. I think it'd be a very nice position for him.
Yeah, I think, was part of that gapped pack towards the back of the field earlier on in the race and set the fastest laps early on, trying to catch up to everyone, but used up all his ERS doing so. So yeah, on with a chance of getting some points if he could have get ahead of Shelson and Charbot Cognier, perhaps for tyres just starting to die on those that came into the pits first, and that includes Shanaka Clay. 0.2 of a second ahead of Danny Bavesde at the moment, low on his ERS. Bavesde sends it down the inside, and that was enough to spook Clay. That was enough to put the Englishman offline, and this could be an opportunity for the Hungarian for some late race overtaking action. Charbot Cognier and Shelton are swapping places. Here comes Danny Bavesde. He's passed 2 cars round the outside at this corner earlier on, just the one this time around. And that is Danny Bavesde up into the top 6. Can he attack Dylan Warren on the final lap?
He never makes it easy for himself, does Danny Bavesde. I mean, he loves these flashy overtakes, and he gets by in dramatic fashion on Shanaka Clay. I think he's going to be a little bit annoyed at that dive bomb when the move never really was on. But Bavesde just played that so smart indeed, because he spooked him into losing some time to Dylan Warren, and then had the superior slipstream advantage. Was able to get on by as Danny Bavesde has got plenty of ERS actually. He's got 20% in that Alfa Romeo compared to Dylan Warren's 5. Could see a last lap overtake for P5 in this race. Could be P4 by the end of it if they do keep it in that 3-second window of Jake Benham. The front of the order, it doesn't look like Alvaro Caraton is going to be fighting for the winners. There's Istvan Pukki to the inside of Shanaka Clay down at turn number 5. He gets on by the Williams driver, who really does not have any battery at all. Istvan Pukki's got plenty to disperse of on this final lap. Meanwhile, up ahead on the road, here comes Danny Bavesde. He's using all the battery possible now. Looks to the inside, sends the dummy on him. Down the inside goes Danny Bavesde, almost into the back of Nicolas Longue. Somehow, he's kept it out of the rear wing of the Ferrari, and now off the exit of turn number 7. Danny Bavesde not able to make that move stick, but now coming down in towards turn number 9. Really the last opportunity for Bavesde to make an overtake. Is he going to send up the inside? Here comes Istvan Pukki around the outside of his fellow countryman, and he gets on by, and now wide potentially off the exit of turn number 10. Istvan Pukki can't find a way through. Here he comes now up the inside once again of Danny Bavesde. They're still going to run wheel to wheel throughout this final sector, but at the front of the order now through the final corner, Thomas Ronhaar, he's controlled this race absolutely perfectly, Luke, and to come across the line, Ronhaar takes victory here in Abu Dhabi. Alvaro Caraton, his best effort is P2, and with the penalty applied, Nicolas Longue is going to be able to jump ahead of Jake Benham, who maintains P4 after all that battling took place. Dylan Warren is 5th, Istvan Pukki 6th, and Bavesde 7th. After all of that from him, he wasn't able to make the move stick, and he even lost the position to his rival.
I mean, I think Pukki saw what Danny Bavesde did earlier on and thought, do you know what, let's go for this move on the outside. Earns himself driver of the day. A very fascinating final lap. I think, really, since the DRS gap was broken earlier on, all the action happened further down the field because it never looked in doubt. Thomas Ronhaar takes the victory, becomes only the 2nd man to win multiple races this season, and in doing so, takes the championship lead. But we've still got the top 4 all within a race win. Could all change next time out at Mexico.
Absolutely, that brings us to the end of what was a very fascinating Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Thomas Ronhaar taking victory in the end, and he even took the fastest lap along with it. Of course, there's no fastest lap point, but look, that seems to be the perfect day from him. He took victory, took pole position, he took the fastest lap along with him. Alvaro Caraton did his best, but he remained in P2. Nicolas Longue from 7th on the grid, a very impressive run into the podium, of course, with Jake Benham's penalty. And look at how many places these guys in the lower end of the top 10 were able to gain. Dylan Warren was up 5 places. Istvan Pukki started 15th, ended in 6th. Danny Bavesde out in Q2. Same goes for Shanaka Clay. They ended at 7th and 8th. Otis Lawrence and Daniel Shelson rounding out the top 10. And then your finishing drivers not in the points were Duncan Hoffland, Ben Chabaconi, Xander Van Dyken, and then your DNF today. It's a whole plethora of them. It's Jack West, Ikabayana, Philip Presnader, Luke Smith, Ismail Fassi, Chana Kinchi, and Max Wiesel. But Luke, everything sort of climaxed on that final lap of the race. We saw a tantalizing battle, and Istvan Pukki really did get to flex his muscles there.
I mean, yeah, there was so much going on in all of that. We sort of ignored Pukki for a bit. We didn't think he was going to be right up there towards the front, and yeah, just crazy driving. towards the end there. They managed to keep it relatively clean. I mean, we saw earlier on Lovens and Fassi coming through that part of the circuit. Definitely didn't keep it clean, and Otis Lovens not too happy with that, and I don't think Ismail Fassi's too happy with him either. So, wouldn't be too surprising to see that one get to the stewards, but out in front, Thomas Ron are untouchable today. We'll have to see whether he's the same at Mexico and Austria, but he's starting to look a bit uncomfortable for the others because it was only Cavaton that could stay near him. Yes, we know the undercut's extremely powerful around Abu Dhabi. That proved to be the case today because that probably was what helped Cavaton take that second place so comfortably.
Yeah, absolutely, and Luke, I think the stewards today are going to be very busy. I mean, you touched on Otis Lawrence. He had so many incidents today, and I think you touched on it earlier, he is only 14, and to think when I was 14, I was playing F1 2017 on like 50, 60 AI, so to be at the level that he is at now, it is monumental for his age, and there's no one quite like him. He just needs to forget about this one, go once again. But aside from him, there was so many other bits of contact. We only had 13 finishers by the end of it, so stewards definitely going to be busy after this one. But it was a fantastic race overall. It really did go quiet in the medium stint, and then all of a sudden everything just kicked off towards the end of the Grand Prix. Thank you to the Hungarians for making it very exciting.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Birthday and Pookie just sort of came up together, worked very well together throughout the entire race, and then I think on the final lap, Pookie suddenly realised, I can get myself an extra couple of points here, and went for it round the outside. I mean, I have to be on board on Birthday's car, and then all of a sudden you just see an Alpha Tauri trying to sneak its way around, and worked very beautifully indeed. Provisional driver standings, the top 4 in the championship did finish top 4 in the race. Provisional standings are Thomas Ronhar now leads the championship on 114 points. Jake Benham is second on 108, so a 6-point gap between those. Nicholas Longue is third on 101, and Alvaro Cavaton in 4th place on 104. So, I mean, still extremely close between all of them. It's actually Alvaro Cavaton on 94, sorry, not 104. So yeah, still extremely close between them. Still top 4 drivers within 20 points. It is going to be a fascinating final 2 races of the season at Mexico and Austria, and we'll soon be able to hear what our race winner thought of how today went.
Absolutely, we've got Thomas Ronhar in the waiting room. So Luke, I think we should drag him in here, have a quick chat to our race winner. Thomas, congratulations on your victory today.
Thank you very much. In terms of pace, this race was something else. Nailed the hardest and managed to actually gap, I think Jake, who was at that point second, or Alvaro, I can't remember. But managing to gap Alvaro actually in second, I remember now, because he made a mistake in sector 3, which costed him about 4 or 5 tenths. So when I saw that, I tried to create that 1 second barrier, which I managed to do, and then extended the gap to a further 2 seconds. And then, apart from there, just control my pace, try and save my ERS, because I knew a few guys would probably go for the undercut, which Alvaro was one of them. He managed to undercut me, and managing to overtake him 1 straight later though, because I didn't want to get held up by Alvaro. He might have, backed me out or backed me back into Jake or Nico. But very, very happy about the result, and I can't wait for the last 2.
Yeah, of course, next up we are headed to Mexico. How are you feeling around that track?
I think it's about the 15th race I've done this so far. I love Mexico so much. But I think everyone else enjoys the track, including me. It's a pretty fun track to drive, so I reckon we'll have some good fun there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, and now with just 2 races left to go in this season, you are ahead in the championship fight. Jake Benham off the podium in this race. That means you are the championship leader. So coming into the last few races, of course, it went down to the wire last season. Unfortunately, you weren't able to take victory. You're looking to right your wrongs this time by?
It's going to be very close as always, with guys like Jake, Alvaro, and Nico still in the top 4. It's still very close, I believe. I think if I saw just now, I think top 4 still covered by like 20-25 points. So it's still all to play for. 1 mistake could, drop you to B3 or even B4 in the championship, and that might, be very costly at the end. But I'm very confident heading into the last 2 races, and we'll just have to wait and see how it goes.
Well, really well done for this victory, and I'm hoping that we get to hear from you once again headed into next week at Mexico. The season really is heating up at this point. So very best of luck for you, Thomas.
Thank you, Dan, and thank you, Luke, as well. Thank you.
And I'm just looking in the interview room, Luke. It doesn't seem like we have Nico or Alvaro waiting for an interview. But yeah, Thomas Ronhard, Luke, he seems quite confident for next week at Mexico. He's got experience around there. And I think we could see him once again at the front of the order.
Yeah, I mean, that wouldn't be too surprising. Let's be honest. He's been at the front pretty much every track he's been at. Crucially, spoke about that hard stint. It was all about getting far ahead at the first stint, breaking that DRS, and then was able to keep himself ahead. Obviously, who knows how things could have been different in qualifying. Again, saw so many people make small mistakes in that qualifying session. Nicolas Longue not able to improve, but was able to get himself onto the podium, which I'm sure he'll be, absolutely delighted with. Keeps him in that championship hunt, but it is possible. It's not likely, but it is possible. If results go his way, that obviously the championship can be secured next time out. Thomas Ronhard would need, I think he'd need to take the victory and then bad results to happen to Venom, Cavaton and Longue. But you never know. Mexico, it's a fun track to commentate on. DRS is so important around there. Run down towards turn number 1 as well, let's not forget. Qualifying on pole might not be the best place to be.
Yeah, absolutely. With how long that run-up is, I do believe it is actually the quickest, the longest run down in towards the first corner on the Formula One calendar. So it certainly is going to be an interesting one next week in Mexico. Luke, just one more thing to touch on from my side of things. Some devastating news, unfortunately, that the streak is over for Danny Berejnay. Mr. 100% is no more. He's Mr. 67% now.
I mean, he gave it a good try, to be perfectly honest. There was a point towards the end of that first hard tyre stint where we were thinking, he couldn't, could he? In the end, the fresher tyres helped him out towards the end of that, but I think just a bit too much to ask. And him and Esteban Pookie put in a fantastic performance, pushing themselves up through the field. And again at Mexico, that could be something we see. Also at Mexico, do tend to see a lot of drivers staying out quite long and getting themselves involved with a front runner. So I think that's going to be something to watch out for. Traffic management in Mexico City is going to be oh so crucial.
Yeah, we know if Will Lewis is racing, he's not pitting until about lap 30. So, lots to look forward to for next week. But I believe, I'm just check one more time, there's no one in the interview room waiting for an interview. So I think we're going to call it there. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into round number 9. The season is almost over. Luke, we're only going to have 2 more races together after this one. I'm heartbroken.
I know. What are we going to do on Sundays? We'll have to ask what everyone else does on a Sunday, to be perfectly honest.
You get to watch some IndyCar, I think, but IndyCar always provides a lot of excitement. But from us, I believe that is everything from this evening. Once again, thank you everyone for tuning in to this race. Make sure you follow WOR on Twitter at WOR League and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's the big red button beneath the stream. You cannot miss it at all. And if you want to follow all of the WOR news, you can join our Discord. The link will be in the description. If you want to follow myself on Twitter, it will be at DanFieldF1. And if you want to follow Luke, it'll be at LukeEtheridge95. You can see this is listed just below our wonderful faces here. But once again, thank you everyone for tuning in this evening. And we will see you next week in Mexico. Thank you everyone, and good night.